Let's see. On. Let's make sure LinkedIn's up. Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great start to your day. Make sure we are active on here. LinkedIn might not be working this morning. YouTube's good. Rumble's good. X is good. Facebook is good. Should I try to do LinkedIn? Let me get LinkedIn. And now I got to fix Rumble. Not sure I can. I don't think I can. All right, we'll just go with that. This one's not showing up. No, it's not showing up. All right, hope everybody's had a great weekend and is ready for a great week. We are into the month of, I think my last stream was Saturday, was the 31st, right? So we are in a new month. Welcome to the new month. Hope all of you have your goals written down and clearly documented for the month of February 2025. We are already a month into the year. Make sure you stay focused and updated on where you're supposed to be, what's supposed to be happening out here. The topic here today is we're going to talk about the things we know that we are already, today being the third, let's see. Donald Trump got inaugurated on what, the 19th or the 20th, whatever day that was. So it's only been about 2 weeks. It was a Monday too, right? So it's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks of Donald Trump's second term as president of the United States of America. And you already know, with the Trump derangement syndrome, so many people actively against him and so many people pretending to be against him because it will help draw attention to them and their platforms and their media, whatever it is they put out. And then people buying into this, because a lot of times people, just everyday citizens, not being critical thinkers, will accept anything that they hear, especially if it goes along with what they already want to think. We got to do some fact checking here. All right. And I'm not even a fan of the concept of fact checking. So I'm kind of being facetious here. When I say fact checking, we're going to do some fact checking on what's been said about the Trump administration so far. And there are probably some things that I'm not going to list here, but I'm going to list some of the high level things, and we're going to dive into those, what they are, what they mean, what the lie is, and what the actual truth is. And hopefully help some of you to get better at sleuthing out the nonsense from the reality of what's happening in anything that's happening, especially coming from the political side of things, because politicians, they are professional liars. They lie for a living, and this applies to all types of politicians. So you got to be able to suss out the nonsense that they're telling you, and the media people who are giving you the nonsense as well. All of these things you got to be good at. Thank you for that gift, whoever was just did that. Shout out to people who jumped on the team over there on TikTok. We added subscriptions over here too over the weekend, so you should be able to see those somehow, some way when you're looking at this live. I haven't even looked into the details of how they work, but I will talk more about that later, maybe. All that said, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day, former 9-year professional athlete, author of 40 books, done 4 TEDx talks. I have this company called Work on Your Game. What we do over here is we help high-level professionals, ambitious, high-performing professionals with their, first of all, getting to your highest possible level of performance, because the ambitious are always trying to go higher, doing so consistently through systems and strategies, and making sure that everything and everyone is held accountable for performance. That's what we do over here at Work on Your Game. You can find out more about that if you go to Work on Your Game University or DreUniversity.com. You can find out more about what we do and how we do it. With that out the way, let's pick it up. First, with the biggest one, at least the biggest one when I came up with these notes. And this is every day we know there's a new big story with Donald Trump, right? But the biggest one when I started coming up with these notes was the immigration issue with Tom Homan, who's handling the immigration issue, and the ICE, which is ICE, which is people who basically enforce what's happening with the border generally, and with people who are here, whether legally or illegally, and just border enforcement. All right. So this whole issue with deportations, and we know that they are actually happening, and the Trump administration said they were going to do it, and they are actually following through on what they said they were going to do. Tom Homan is actually following through on what he said he was going to do through Donald Trump, and a lot of people are up in arms and going crazy over this, or at least pretending to go crazy over this. So you have seen it, especially those of you on TikTok, if you actually use the app and you scroll through it and see posts on X, I've seen it as well. You have a whole bunch of teachers, school teachers, because the big thing that people are getting mad about is, actually, let me just frame this properly. So what a lot of people are talking about, people who don't like Trump, they said, well, a whole bunch of people who are immigrants, or you have family who are immigrants, you voted for Donald Trump, and now he's going to deport your family and deport you, even though you supported Donald Trump. So you got people saying that. Is that actually true? Well, I'm sure in some cases it may be true, but in most cases, no, it's not. And the other thing that people are really getting excited about in a negative way is that they are claiming that ICE and the Border Patrol is coming into schools and pulling kids out of school in order to deport the kids. That's not true. All right, let's talk about this, because you've probably seen these videos. I've seen them on X, but they were downloaded from TikTok, of these blue-haired, pronoun-having school teachers talking about what they're going to do if the deportation police were to come to their classroom and try to take the child out of the classroom. And the teachers are saying, well, you're going to have to go through me, and I'm going to fight the cops, and I'm not going to let any kid get taken out of my classroom, and I'm going to lock the door, so I'm not going to let you in, and I'm not going to follow any orders that you give, because I'm not going to let you take any of my kids out of the classroom. And the reality is, there's several realities here. All right, they're going to do nothing. These teachers are not going to do anything. No school teacher is going to be able to physically fight off a Border Patrol agent if they really wanted to come into class and take the kids. But that's not even what they're doing anyway. This is all virtue signaling. And we know what the internet is, a breeding ground for people doing this virtue signaling. And if y'all don't know what virtue signaling is, a person pretending to be about a certain thing to signal a certain level of virtue so that they can get a round of applause or appreciation from the audience, and everybody's all excited, like, oh, look how great this person is because they're saying this, or they're doing this, or they're pretending to be that third thing. This is all nonsense. This is all performative. So the reality is, going bigger picture here, is, first of all, Tom Homan already explained this. You may not have heard him say it. Most of you probably didn't. He explained this before. I believe this is before Trump even came in office. He said that, let's say there's an adult who needs to be deported because they're here illegally, but they have children who are here and the children are not illegal. What happens in that situation? Because he was asked this question. It's a good question to ask. He said the adult is going to be deported. And if they have family members who don't want to be separated from the person who is set to be deported, the family members can go with that person who's being deported. Not because they're here illegally, but if you don't want to separate the family, then y'all can go too. But this person, this one person, they got to go. And that's a completely logical, rational way to deal with the situation. He said that a long time ago, and that is exactly what it is. So this whole issue of, and again, this is not even really happening, but let's just say that it did. The Border Patrol agents or whoever it is, ICE, coming into a school to get a child. They're coming into the school to get a child because the parent has requested the child, not because they're just coming to get the kid by itself. Again, how is a kid the kid usually is not going to be here illegally on their own. They're usually with a consenting adult who is probably also illegal, if the kid is illegal at all. So they're coming to get the kid because the parent wants the kid, and they're bringing the kid and the parent together because the parent doesn't want to be separated from their child. They want the kid to come home from third grade, and where's mommy or where's daddy, and daddy's gone because they got deported, and the kid wasn't notified of the situation. So that's what's actually happening. So all this story about they're just pulling kids out and they're just taking the kids on their own is nonsense. And if you actually think about it logically for about 45 seconds, you realize that that's the only way it could actually happen. Because how is a parent going to be here legally? Like, they have proper documentation, legal status, but the kid does not have legal status. How is that even possible? Well, when you think about it, for the most part, it's not really a probable thing. So again, the kid is just connected to the parent. That's what's actually happening. Now let's go to a higher picture, bigger picture reality. And by the way, I'm going to answer all questions and comments when I'm done. Bigger picture reality of this situation is that there were more deportations under both the Barack Obama and the Joe Biden administrations than there were under the first Trump administration. This is true. Let me say that one more time. Now, you want to talk about facts. Here's a fact for you. Okay, there were more deportations under Barack Obama's presidency, either term, and Joe Biden's term from 2020 to 2024 than there were under Trump's from 2016 to 2019. They deported actually more people. All right, that's it. That's the reality. The thing is, that Barack Obama and Joe Biden didn't make a whole lot of noise about the fact that they were doing it. They didn't build their campaigns around, hey, we're going to deport people who are here without proper documentation. They didn't make a whole mess about it, but they were doing it more than Trump did it. Trump built his whole campaign around it. And what you should take from this is how marketing works. Marketing is about what you choose to emphasize and what people decide to catch on to and pay attention to. So Donald Trump has built his campaigns, his first campaign and his first successful one and his second successful one. He built these campaigns around, we're going to enforce our borders and we're going to get illegal people out of this country. Then he did that. He preached about it very hard. But the reality is both Biden and Obama did more of it than he's done, at least up to this point. Maybe he'll surpass them with what he does in this term. And also I think he said they're going to use Gitmo, Guantanamo, for holding some of the people that need to be deported. Barack Obama was using Gitmo. Now, he was using that more than Biden, and he was using it more than Trump. But again, there wasn't a whole lot of noise about that. And y'all remember when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did those fake photos where she's in the white outfit and she's allegedly looking through the fence and allegedly distraught over the kids. Y'all remember those photos that she put out and nobody believed her? Like she was at some parking lot somewhere and she pretended that she was at the border looking through the fence of the kids. All right, the kids in cages thing that they were talking about. Remember that whole kids in cages situation? All right, that was Barack Obama was doing that more than anybody. All right, he was the one who started that. That was not Donald Trump. So the reality is, as I already explained, if ICE is coming to a school, they're getting the kids because the adults want the kid. Again, the kid's not going to be illegal while the adult is legal. And the one story that you heard about, I think it was in Chicago, they were saying that ICE had come to the school to try to get a kid, and then the school didn't let the ICE in. That was not even what happened. It was actually the Secret Service going there because they had been alerted of some type of threat, and the Secret Service came to the school, and whatever the situation was, turned out it had dissipated. So there really was no issue that needed to be addressed, is what actually happened. It was not the border cops coming to get anybody out of the school. And no, the school did not tell them that you can't come in. That did not happen. The media framed this story falsely to try to make Trump look bad. So what they're doing, because the whole thing is stages of this as they go through with Trump. And this is what Trump derangement syndrome, this is how it works. So Trump comes out and he says, I'm going to do ABC. He says that during his campaigns or even during his presidential terms. He says, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do that thing. Or he'll float it out on social media and people start reacting to it. And people will say, well, no, you can't do that. It's a bad thing. You're terrible, etc. That's the first stage. Then when he starts actually doing the thing, if he does actually do it, people just look into what he's actually doing. They try to dissect it and find the negatives in it and trash it. That's the next level of the thing. And then they'll try to look back on it after it already happened and try to tell you why it was a bad move, even if it ended up being a good move. And if it ends up being a good move objectively to where they can't trash it, then they'll just move on to the next Trump crisis and try to trash him for that. So what the media is trying to do is stain Trump's name because he said, I'm going to do these deportations. We're going to do mass deportations. We're going to get illegals out of this country. And people said, well, that's terrible. You're a bad person. How are you going to do it? There's no way you can do it, et cetera, et cetera. Then he started doing it. And they're like, damn, he is actually going to do it. So they got to kill that story of he's not going to do it. Now they got to find out a way to trash the fact that he is actually doing it. So they said, all right, we can't really come up with a good angle for they're finding people who are actually here illegally and they're getting them out of the country. How can that possibly be framed as a negative thing? Well, the answer is they couldn't come up with a good answer to that question. They couldn't come up with a good answer. So we got to find a way to frame this as negative, but we can't just go with that. What other angle can we use? And the angle that they came up with was, oh, the negative way we're going to frame this is they're coming after the kids. So we're going to use this is what we call the appeal to emotion fallacy. So they're framing this emotionally as the government is bad because they're deporting kids. See, if they were deporting adults, they can't make that look bad. They couldn't really come up with anything. So, they're deporting kids. So that's what makes them bad. The problem is that's not actually what the situation is. And this is why you can't trust the mainstream media, because the mainstream media, despite what happened in 2016, despite what happened even in 2020 when Biden ends up president, and despite what happened in 2024 with Trump now again as president, and it's obvious how much trust the mainstream media has lost in the eyes of the American citizen. Despite all of this, they keep running back the same playbook. They're still running the same playbook over Donald Trump. And this is the reason why TDS, which people know as Trump derangement syndrome, this is the reason why it's a real thing. The reason why it's a real thing is because if you understand anything about human psychology, you understand that emotion overpowers logic 7 days a week, twice on Sunday, 24 hours a day. So if you can get someone on a hyper emotional level, you get them hyper triggered emotionally on any subject, then nothing that you say to them logically is going to get them out of that space. And when it comes to Donald Trump, as opposed to any other politician we've seen in the last 25 years, people get more emotionally triggered over him than anyone that we've seen by far. Therefore, the logical thinking goes out the window. And when it comes to the mainstream media, logically, they understand all this stuff about losing the trust of the public and people no longer believing in the mainstream media. And a lot of people buying into this whole concept of fake news and not thinking that the mainstream media is being fair or objective in their reporting, whether some of that is hyperbolized or whether it is true. There's a little bit of both. The mainstream media can see that they've lost. They can see this. Now, it's not like this is news to them. If I was to go to them and say, hey, you all don't have the trust of the public the way that you used to, they know. So why are they still doing the same thing, even though they notice? The reason they're still doing the same thing is because they cannot get out of their emotional hyperactivity triggered state over Donald Trump. If it wasn't Donald Trump, then they could get out of it. I think, let's say after this second Trump administration, let's say someone like J.D. Vance runs for president, and let's say he runs against Kamala. Yeah, right. All right, let's say he runs against Kamala, he wins. All right, let's say J.D. Vance wins. Even if he's still pushing MAGA, the mainstream media will be able to calm down emotionally and get back to thinking logically as soon as it's not Trump. As long as Trump is around, a lot of people can't think logically. And this is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because it creates a whole lot of juicy headlines for anyone to talk about, whether it's the mainstream media making up shit, whether it's people like me knocking down their bullshit, or it's just the fact that everybody has something to say about politics just because Trump is involved. Like when Trump was not, before he got in, a lot of people paid very little attention to politics, including myself. And nowadays, everybody has something to say about it because everybody notices it because it's all on the headlines. But once he's gone, I think maybe they might be able to think logically again, if they even still exist. They might not even make it through this next 4 years. But this is why you can't trust the mainstream media anymore, because they know better, but they're still going to put this stuff out knowing exactly what they're doing. And if you pay attention to the news, you may have noticed, well, alternative news, because the mainstream media doesn't report this, that Trump has already won 2 financial settlements against mainstream media platforms for them coming out and actually not telling the truth and doing it on purpose. You see, the thing about defamation, if you're going to sue a company for defamation, it's very hard to win as a public figure. When you're a public figure and you sue and people say negative stuff about you, that's part of the game. That's legally, it's accepted as part of the game. So if you're a president, a mainstream media platform can trash you and take everything that you do and turn it in a negative way and even play around with the truth a little bit. They can do that pretty much as they want, and legally they are protected. This is the reason why you don't see most presidents going and suing the mainstream media or any news outlet that was trashing them for the whole 4 years. You don't see that happening most of the time. You only see Trump doing it, because in order to prove defamation, you have to prove malice. You have to prove that a platform knew that they were saying something that is factually false, but they were doing it. They would do it anyway. You have to prove that, and that's very hard to prove. And to prove that, you got to get internal records. You got to go through discovery. You got to have access to documents. So a lot of things you have to do is why a lot of defamation lawsuits don't win. And if a defamation lawsuit wins, that's because someone was able to prove that another person was being dishonest on purpose. And there's a lot of people being dishonest on purpose. It's just, can you prove that they're being dishonest on purpose? That's the hard part. You got to get it on paper. You can't just, of course, you can't read people's minds. Here's the other thing when it comes to the deportations, immigration, ICE issue. If you're in the United States illegally, we just got to make sure this is on the record. You should and will be removed. I mean, how many of you is okay with someone being in this country illegally and they just get to stay? I don't understand what the argument is in support of that. Again, neither did Barack Obama, neither did Joe Biden. So whether you are a Trump supporter listening to this, or you're a Republican, MAGA, or you are completely against him and you voted for Joe Biden and you voted for Barack Obama, or you just dislike Trump for whatever reason, so you vote for whoever goes against him, understand that all three presidents that I just mentioned, all three of them, this goes back, so we'll be going back the last 17 years, just between these three guys, they all were deporting people. And again, the two Democrats were deporting more people than the Republican did. So who has an issue with removing people who are here in this country illegally? I don't think anyone does. And that's what makes it so crazy. If you really think about that, isn't that what makes it crazy? Why are people going so crazy over deportations and people who are here illegally being removed now, when it's been happening at least since 2008, when Obama was in presidency for 2 terms? They were doing it too. Why are people all of a sudden upset about it? Why is this all of a sudden an issue? Because of the person who is doing it. That tells you a whole lot about how people think or how they actually don't think. So if you're here illegally, you should be removed. Period. That's where I stand. Now, if you're illegally here, you got to go. Any other country in the world, you're there illegally, they don't even let you in. First of all, you can't get in there illegally. And if you do, the cases are few and far between. And when they catch you, they get rid of you immediately. It's not even a news story. They just get rid of you. You go. So if you want to take your family with you, as Tom Homan said, your family can go with you, but you got to go. And again, this is not even so much about a personal opinion, but these are the rules on the books, in case any of you didn't know. The United States of America has a whole bunch of laws on the books, and they are all free to be perused at your convenience because you're an American citizen. All of this stuff is public information. The laws on the book say if you come into this country illegally, you will be caught and removed. Or if you get caught, you get removed. The challenge has been catching people. That's been the issue. But now they're starting to catch people. Those people are getting removed. And you're seeing a lot of people who, again, are deep in their TDS, deep in their feelings. They're saying, well, they're putting out stuff like they're going to help people to avoid the border police if they happen to come to your neighborhood or happen to knock on your door or something like this. Y'all seen this stuff that people are talking about how they're going to, I'm seeing, well, of course you got the school teachers, but I've seen people who work maybe for, in general public. So I can't remember who it was or where they were, but it was a woman. She worked somewhere for some city, some municipality, and she had a flyer that was basically saying, we're going to teach you all the things you need to know. So if the border comes your way, the border patrol or ICE comes around you, here's what you say, here's what you don't say, here's what you have a right to. And it's not that she's necessarily legally doing anything wrong necessarily. It's the fact that they were putting this out as a way of letting people who are here illegally know, hey, we're going to do some things to protect you so you don't get caught for being in the country illegally or being suspected of being in the country illegally. Maybe not everybody's here illegally. I believe that's crazy. Now, how are you serving your community if that's what you're trying to do? Now, here's the other argument. There is another counter argument to all these points that I made. Some people say, well, a person may be in this country illegally, but they're a good citizen. They are a positive member of the community. They are, if and when they can, they pay taxes. I mean, they pay taxes when you buy stuff. You got to pay the tax. And they are a good neighbor and they're a nice person and they have a job and they're doing good work and they're taking care of their family and their kids go to school and their kids play with my kids and they're not doing anything wrong. This person's not doing anything wrong, not doing anything bad. Why does the government have to come and find this person and ship them out of the country? That is a legitimate argument, especially if you tend to lean more towards the emotional, what we call appeals to emotion and appeal to pity arguments. The answer to it is a stone cold, logical, objective one, which is we have laws here. And as long as the laws are being enforced, this person who may be a great person still has to go because they are violating the law, period. That's it. Same way if I went to another country and I was there illegally somehow, I didn't have the right paperwork or my visa expired, etc., and the government found out and they found me, they would say, you got to go. Even if I said, hey, I'm a good person over here, I'm doing good things, I'm taking care of my friends, I started a family over here in this country, I got a little business down there on the corner, I'm doing all these positive things. Maybe I can make an argument to a judge that might somehow, some way get them to say yes, but I doubt it. Most countries, I doubt it. Or if I can get them to say yes, it would come with some kind of penalty. Like, hey, I already told y'all this last week. I read this out loud. That in other countries, there were 4 or 5 countries, I read it out, that if you wanted to fast track your citizenship in that country and you're a non-citizen, where you fast track your citizenship for the most part is that you had to make a 6-figure financial investment into their system. And that's not I'm not being hyperbolic. That was really what it was. You had to make a 6-figure investment. Either you had to give that money to the government, or most of the cases, most of the ones that I read, you had to give the money to some type of real estate development fund. Almost all of them, it was something that had to do with real estate. I don't know why the commonality, but that's what it was. You had to give like $125K, $150,000, $200,000 into real estate development, and you had to actually give them the money. You had to show the money and give them the money. And if you did that, and there was a couple other things you could do, you could get fast tracked into citizenship within like 30 days. But in America, you can get fast tracked to legal status in a couple days, a week. Now you don't have to do anything. You don't have to give anything. You're coming here to take. In other countries, if you're going to come into our country and be a member here, you got to give us something. You can't just come here and plunder our resources for your personal desires, which is what happens here in America. You come here for looking for opportunity to make some money, right? To help your family out. You get over here, you get established, you send for your family, you bring them over here. But you're just taking. Eventually, you may get to the point where you can give, but at the beginning, you're just taking. In other countries, you got to give from the beginning, or you can't even come in. They're not offering you an opportunity, or they are. They're trying to get citizenship in the country for whatever reason, but you got to give up front. If you don't give up front, you can't even come in to get yourself established. There will be no establishment. So again, we have laws on the books, and there should be no issue with any administration enforcing the laws on the books. The issue is, and Thomas Sowell talked about this, is that when people are used to any form of preferential treatment and they grow accustomed to it, then treating them not preferentially anymore and just treating them normally, all of a sudden it feels like some type of violation. Feels like you are doing something wrong to them when you're just treating them normally, but they're used to being treated they're used to being treated preferentially. And when you stop doing that, it feels like you're violating them. And that's what's happening when it comes to immigration. People got so used to, because during the Biden administration, even though they did deport a whole bunch of people, well, the reason that the Biden administration was able to deport so many people because they were letting so many in. So many people were coming in during the Biden-Harris administration that the deportations were not even that hard it wasn't even hard to find people to be deported, because there were so many coming in that didn't get deported. There was enough left over that need to be deported. They were able to get them out of there. All right. They weren't being strategic about it. It was just easy. All right. If all the money's just falling from the sky, you might catch a couple of dollars. You only got to try. You got to go look for it. It's just falling out the sky. You just got to grab it. So that was happening with the Biden-Harris administration. So the contrast between what Biden-Harris was doing for 3.5 years up until the middle of 2024, when Kamala came into the nomination and she started talking about, well, we're trying to secure the border with this bill. And y'all remember that whole thing. I've gone over this many times. She kept talking about this bill that they allegedly had bipartisan support, and Donald Trump stopped the bill. And again, this was in 2024, but they have been in office since 2021. So what were you doing for the last 3.5 years? What they were doing was allowing a whole bunch of people to come into the country. That's what they were doing. And that's why when Trump comes in and he says, well, we're going to enforce it and we're not going to keep letting people come into the country and we're going to start deporting people who are here and who are not supposed to be here. The contrast between the two just seems so stark. That's why people are getting all excited about it. On top of the fact that talking shit about Donald Trump is good for ratings, is good for clicks, is good for engagement. So all Trump is doing, for any of you that doesn't understand, all he's doing is enforcing the law. That's all he's doing. The law is already on the books. He did not create the law. Presidents can't create laws. All he did was take the laws that already exist and say, we are going to enforce them. Y'all understand that, right? Y'all understand that Donald Trump has not signed any new bills into law in 2 weeks. All he did was take the laws that already exist and say, okay, now we're actually going to enforce them. And the way you can relax or strengthen the enforcement of a law based on the executive orders. So when you hear Trump talking about these executive orders, that's what those are. And there's other things they can do, but generally that's one of the things that they do. So for those of you who don't know, a little bit of recent history. When Donald Trump was president the first time, he had a bunch of executive orders in place that basically enforced the border more strongly. Then when Joe Biden came in 2021, he signed a bunch of executive orders that removed all of Donald Trump's executive orders and basically relaxed the border enforcement. That's how it works. So the president can sign these executive orders that can say, hey, this law over here, I want you to actually really, really, really enforce that law, enforce it down to the letter. Or he can sign an executive order that says this law over here, you could kind of turn the other cheek and don't enforce that as strongly. And again, I'm painting with a very broad brush here. That's what Joe Biden did when he came in office in 2021. Now all Trump did was come back and he just redid basically what Joe Biden had done before. And what he had done before, he canceled out Joe Biden's thing and brought back in his thing. And now he's like, now we're actually going to enforce the law. Now, there are times when enforcing the law down to the letter can be problematic, but this situation, which has become for many reasons, if you heard about the high profile stories of this and also the low profile stories of this is a thing that does need to be addressed. And again, Donald Trump's true to his word. He said America first. So how can people be mad about this? And we're gonna get to some other things about America first in a moment. But he said, I'm going to put America first, and we're going to do things that put Americans first in line rather than putting anyone other than America, whether that be other countries that we're doing business with or people from other countries. We're not putting them first in line. We're going to put Americans first in line. He said that during his campaign 2 times, maybe 3 times, and now he's doing it. So, and people voted for it on top of that. So people voted for him 2 out of 3 times at least. And he told you exactly what he was going to do. It's not like he lied and said, I'm going to do this and then did something different. Like a lot of politicians, he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. So what is anybody mad about? Moving on. Prices, and we're talking about, we're fact checking things that have been said about Donald Trump in his first 2 weeks of his second term. The prices of groceries. All right, so let's talk about this prices of groceries thing, because this is one thing that a lot of anti-Trump people try to use against him. Well, hey, Donald Trump's president now, and the prices of eggs haven't gone down. The price of groceries are still up. The price of groceries went up. What's happening? All right. So first of all, for everybody, it's been 2 weeks. All right, it's been 2 weeks. So whether he was actually planning on bringing down the prices of groceries or not, Donald Trump did campaign a bit on this whole groceries and the cost of living thing. The issue with the cost of living argument between politicians is there are multiple issues with this. There are multiple problematic issues with politicians campaigning to you and me about what they're going to do about the cost of living life. Is number one, they do not control the costs. The president does not control that. Now, the president will gladly take credit for it when the prices go down. Prices go down, Donald Trump will gladly take credit. He'll take credit as soon as he sees it. And if prices don't go down, then what do? They blame the previous administration, which has much more of an impact on it. Whatever happened in the previous 4 years has much more impact than what's happened in the last 2 weeks. Guaranteed. We know that. Anybody who can think understands that. And the other thing is this: the president, as I already said, the president doesn't control this. This is a reflection. Prices going up is a reflection of inflation, which ain't changing, because it ain't like Donald Trump's putting us back on the gold standard and making our dollars actually worth something real. Our money is worth nothing. The fiat currency is worth nothing. The only value our money has is the belief that we have in our system. We lose belief in that system, then the money you have in your pocket or the money you have in your bank account is nothing. It means absolutely nothing. Donald Trump ain't changing that. Joe Biden didn't change it. Barack Obama didn't change it. Trump the first time did not change it. No president we've had this century has been able to change that or has even tried to change it. So the cost of life is always going to go up. If it happens to go down temporarily, cool, appreciate it. Go buy stuff while the price is down. But that shouldn't be your expectation. Excuse me. Prices are always going to continue to go up as long as the Federal Reserve is printing money. I did a whole live stream on this probably 4 months ago. And the title of it is Why the Middle Class is Disappearing. And the reason why the middle class is disappearing is because as the Federal Reserve Bank, which by the way is not federal, is not part of the government, there are no reserves in that bank and is not even actually a bank. The Federal Reserve Bank, quote unquote, I'm not going to do that every time. As they continue to print money and put money into circulation, the value of your dollars go down, which is why your dollar buys less today than it bought 6 months ago. In general, even though the price of a certain thing may be lower now than it was 6 months ago, in general, your dollar is worth less. And when your dollar is worth less, understand something. Companies that you buy things from, they are run by humans just like you. And guess what? They use dollars just like you. So them knowing that if I sell, let's say I'm an egg salesperson in my town, right? I'm the egg guy, Dre the egg guy in my town. And I sell eggs for $5 because that's a satisfactory exchange for me. I give you a dozen eggs, you give me $5. But I'm human just like you're human, which means the dollars that I collect from you are worth less now than they were a year ago. Well, then guess what? I can't ask you just for $5 for my eggs, because if I collect $5 from you, that $5 doesn't pay my bills the same way it did a year ago. Now it's not worth as much. So now I got to ask for more money. So now I have to raise the prices of my eggs. Instead of $5, now they're $6. Now you have to pay $6 for the eggs. I'm giving you the exact same product, eggs, but again, the eggs are still the same level of value, but what I'm getting in exchange, that dollar is not worth the same amount because the Federal Reserve keeps printing money. So the dollar is not as strong. Therefore, I got to ask for more of them in order to get the same output from that dollar. You understand? That's inflation. That's how inflation generally works. And there are a lot of other pieces that go into it, but generally that's how it works. And this is the reason why. So when I say why the middle class is disappearing, the reason why the middle class is disappearing is because you have the lower class. These are the people who are dependent on the government for stuff. So they basically get government handouts. So, and they don't really have money. Now, that's why they're in the lower class in the first place. Then you have the people in the upper class. Well, they're the ones who are selling you stuff. So they're going to be all right because they're going to keep selling you stuff because somebody's got to buy it. Excuse me. Most of the buying activity that happens in this country is happening through the middle class because they're the people with the money. And there are more of them. Most of the people are in the middle class. There's a few people in the lower class, few people in the upper class. Most of the people are in the middle class. That's the consumer group. Middle class are the consumers. And where's their money going? Their money's going to companies who sell stuff. Well, who owns the companies that sell stuff? The people in the upper class. So all the money is flowing from the middle class to the upper class. So this is why the rich are getting richer. And the middle class, they have less and less money because your dollar is worth less. Your dollar keeps being worth less, and you got to spend more of them in order to get the same stuff you got before. And the lower class, well, they're already broke. They ain't got no money. So they're not really part of this equation. And what's happening is people in the middle class, you need to become a producer who is selling stuff so you can join the upper class, or you will become a serf, a peasant in the lower class, and dependent on the government, which means the government can control you. And your question should be, if you think about this, which one does the government want you to become? Does the government want you to become rich, or does the government want you to be poor? Let me ask that question. Put it in the comments. What do you think? Does the government want you to be rich or poor? Just put rich or poor in the comments. And then I'm gonna examine why. Why would the government want you to be one? The government does want you to be one of these, and I'm going to tell you which one and why. And there's actually an argument for both sides, but I'm going to tell you what actual answer is, and I'm going to tell you both arguments as to why the government may actually want you to be either one, but I'm going to tell you the one that is the true answer and what it is. So everybody who answered said poor. All right. Nobody said rich. All right. So yes, everybody wants you to be poor. And Jesse said it right there. So they can control you. When you're poor, you are dependent. When you don't have your own resources, you don't have your own power, you are dependent on whoever can provide those resources and power, and they now control you because you can't get shit done without them. So government wants you to be poor so they can control you. See, if everybody was poor, let me tell you something. You remember that virus a few years ago? If everybody was poor, then there would have been mandates on that jab and everybody would have had to get it. They would have sent cops around to your house, knock on your door, just make you take it right there on the spot. If everybody was poor, that's what they would have done. They would have made you take it because you wouldn't have the power to push back. But because everybody ain't poor, they couldn't do that. And they had to strongly suggest that you get it, or some people at certain jobs. And if you think about it, any of you work at a job where you were forced to take that shot, or at least you were given the ultimatum, take it or you're fired or you're quit, whatever. Any of you was in that situation, put yes in the chat. The reason why it works the same way at a job is because if you're at a job and you need the job, if you need the job, then the job can say you must do ABC. And if you don't do ABC, you're fired from the job. And if they believe you need the job and you believe you need the job, well, guess what? You got to do what the job says, even if you don't want to do it. I had many students come to me and tell me, I didn't hear from a lot of people at work tell me this, but people who were in the school, a lot of students told me during COVID, 2020 up to about 2022, that they were told by their school, you can't come to campus unless you have that jab. So they took the jab, even though they didn't want to take the jab. And yeah, so I see a couple of you saying that you got forced by your job, either take the jab or you're fired. And if you really need that job and you don't see a prospect of getting another one very easily, replacing that revenue, that income, then you got forced into it. It's the same thing the government would do with people in general. When you're in a position that you need something from someone else and they know that you need it, they may use it against you. This is just how it works. This is how it works. People will use the shit against you if they know that you're in a dependent position. This is why you don't want to be dependent on the government. This is why I've said over and over and over again, the United States government is not here to help you. It is here to get the hell out of your way and protect your rights, not give you rights. The government does not grant rights to citizens. And a lot of people talk about this as if that's the case. No, they do not. And this verbiage is very important. The government does not grant you rights. Your rights are granted by your higher being, God, or whatever you want to call it, whatever you call your higher being. Your rights come from that. Those are human rights. Notice that people always say human rights, right? You hear people say that, human rights. They say, well, healthcare is a human right, and this is a human right, human right, human right. Human rights don't come from the government, ladies and gentlemen. Government rights come from the government. Human rights come from whoever made you human. Who made you human? It wasn't the president. It wasn't Congress. It wasn't anybody in Washington, D.C. Your rights come from your higher being. The government's only job is to protect and defend your rights. And if necessary, enforce your rights. If you had to take somebody to court, they had to enforce your rights. But the government's job is not to give you rights. The government did not give you rights in the first place. And they, in most circumstances, do not have the right to take your rights away, which is why a lot of people were pushing their freedom and their right to choose during that jab situation back 5 years ago. And I remember, I believe it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Was it Arnold Schwarzenegger who had that video out where he was saying, screw your rights? Was it him? I believe it was Schwarzenegger. I think that's what he said. He said, screw your rights. So you need to go get the jab. And there was a whole bunch of people, whole bunch of well-known, prominent people who were, I guess, let's just say, leaning towards the left, saying you have to go and get the jab, forget your rights, forget your freedom. Maybe he said, screw your freedom. It was one of those words he used, screw your rights or screw your freedom. And what he was saying is that you don't have a choice. You need to do this because it's for the greater good. It's for the public good. Some people I know personally said the same stupid shit. Some people I know personally were forced to take the jab because of their jobs. Their jobs forced them to do it. This is the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, you want to make yourself as independent as possible from anyone having power over you, because something like that will happen again in our lifetimes. It's 2025. Between now and 2050, something like that, hopefully it's not a virus like that, but something like that is going to happen again in the next 25 years. And if you are dependent on someone or something, whether the government, a job, or a person, anything else, and they decide you need to do ABC and you don't want to do ABC, now you're caught between a rock and a hard place, because you don't have the freedom to say, screw you, I'm not doing it, if you're dependent. Now, if you're working with somebody, but you can let them go, you could be okay without them. Then you could say, well, screw you. I quit. I'm not doing it. I'm not working here anymore. All right, I'm fired if I don't take the jab. All right, I'm not taking the jab. I'm fired. I guess I'm fired then. But you got to make yourself independent enough that you are able to say that. As people like to say, F you money. All right. One of the best parts about having F you money is you can actually say F you. All right. You don't have to actually do what someone else wants you to do. So back to what I was talking about here. The reason I was asking you, rich or poor, is government wants you to be rich or poor. Now, there is an argument for the government wanting you to be rich. Now, why would the government want you to be rich? Well, because people who are rich, however you define that term, tend to be business owners. And when you own a business, what do? You create jobs. And why does the government care about creating jobs? Why do they care if you have a business and create jobs? Because if you have a business and you create jobs, and that means everybody who works for you, they had to pay taxes, which means the government can take money from your employees before they even see a dollar of it. Because any of you who has a job, you understand the government takes all your tax dollars away from you before you get the money. So if you have a check coming from your job for $1,000 And then when you get your direct deposit, you see is $800. Where's the other $200? Well, the government got it. They took that from you before you got the money. They like that. The government loves that. They love to get their cut first before you get a cut. You can see when you own a business, you get all the money and then you pay the government on the back end. The government gets paid second, you get paid first. When you have a job, the government gets paid first and you get paid second. I suggest you be in a situation where you get paid first and the government gets paid second. But that's just me. So the government likes entrepreneurs and business builders because they create jobs, and jobs mean the government can take money from you before you get a chance to decide what to do with it. This is the reason why people who run businesses get tax breaks and tax credits, and they're able to avoid taxes in ways that an employee cannot avoid taxes. So when you hear people saying things like, well, Amazon only pays this much in taxes, or Donald Trump paid the same amount in taxes as somebody who makes 50 grand a year last year or something like that. You remember this whole thing with the taxes and Donald Trump? The reason why Donald Trump is able to legally not pay as, let's just say, the quote unquote fair share that you hear Democrat politicians talking about all the time is because Donald Trump is a business owner. He owns multiple businesses. He probably has a bunch of investments. And because of that, and also he has good lawyers and good accountants working for him, because of that, he is able to operate within the tax code in ways that allow him to avoid paying taxes. Now, some people say, well, that's a bad thing because he's not paying his fair share and other people had to pay other things. Other people had to pay more stuff to the government, et cetera, et cetera. I say the following. If there was a way, any of you has a job right now, you're a W-2 employee and money is getting taken out of your check before you even see it. If there was a way for you to avoid having that money taken out of your check, would you do it? Yes or no? Any of you who knows money is coming out of your check every time you get paid because the government gets to take their cut before you get yours. If there was a way for you to avoid that happening and you could get all the money and you didn't have to pay it in taxes at all, would you do it? My question, that's my question. Yes or no? Would you do it? So I see a couple people talking about fair share, taxes paid for public school, education, hospitals. If you're not paying your fair share, you're stealing. Okay, so my question to you, Marie, if there was a way for you to not pay it, would you do it? I'm not asking the moral question of if you think it's good or bad. I'm asking, would you do it if it was available? If the option was available to you, would you take it? That's the only question that I'm asking. And I'm going to address the issue of some people saying, well, hey, it's not going to, the public offerings won't be as available if everybody's not paying their taxes. So I'm for love ya. I see ya. Stacy D, Brits calling it out. Buzzle. Marie said no. Marie said no. You would pay? Okay, that's fine. Tweeter said no. Nurse Straight said yes. Okay, so here's the thing. If you are, let's say you're a W-2 employee and you did take that option and you just didn't pay, you didn't have taxes taken out of your check and you could keep that money. You didn't have to pay it in taxes. You could play the Donald Trump game. Darian over there on Instagram, I see you as well. If you could play the Donald Trump game and not pay as much in taxes, assuming this is all true, I haven't seen his tax returns, but assuming this is true, he didn't pay taxes. He admitted to it in the debate with Hillary back in 2016. He said it's smart to not pay taxes. There's a couple things on this. First of all, the government is very inefficient with money. I think we can all agree to that. The government is $36 trillion in debt. Does everybody agree the government is inefficient with money and ineffective with money? I don't want the government managing my money. Would you want the government managing your investment? So, first of all, wanting to give money to the government as if this is some type of, puts you on some type of moral high ground is bullshit. Government is not good with money. They fumble the bag. That's how $36 trillion in debt now and counting. If you go to usdebtclock.org, you can see a running count of how much money the U.S. government is in debt. Some of y'all don't even know about that website. So let me show you what it looks like. It's called usdebtclock.org. So usdebtclock.org. So here's the website right here. If you go to this website, if you were to zoom in on this website, it actually tells you the exact number, the exact amount of debt the United States government has right now. So right now, let me turn it this way. It's easier to see. So right now, the U.S. national debt is $36,432,836,500, and the number is going so fast that I can't even read it. Now it's 600,000. Now it's 700,000. Now it's 800,000. Like literally while I'm reading it, 900,000. Now it's up to $837 million. This is the U.S. national debt. See that number right there? $36 trillion. And you see how fast it's going? That's happening right now. All right, you see that? All right, so any of you didn't know about this website, go look it up on your own time, and they show you a whole bunch of different numbers. So showing you the federal spending, the official federal spending. This is the stuff that they don't hide. All right, this is all happening right now. So why would you want to give money to the government? All right, you might as well flush some money down the toilet. All right. Secondly, when it comes to the quote unquote fair share argument that some moralizers like to play, it will help public schools and the roads will fall apart and the police and the hospitals, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the thing. There will always be a bunch of dummies who will not opt out of the game. So don't worry, the money will still be there. So if a few of you decided that you were going to opt out and go to Donald Trump route and not pay taxes, or not pay them like illegally, but avoid taxes as much as possible. In other words, to pay as little in tax as possible. If you were to play that game and pay as little in tax as possible, was meant instead of paying X amount of taxes, you pay like 10% of that every single year. Do not think that because you did that and because a couple other people took that option, that all of a sudden we wouldn't have roads and we wouldn't have police and we wouldn't have firefighters. We would still have those things because they're still going to be paid for by tax dollars, because there's going to be a whole bunch of dummies who would not opt out of the game because they're playing this moral high ground thing, and or they don't even realize that there's an opportunity for them to take advantage of. So that would not happen if you didn't do this. So this is kind of a Machiavellian way of looking at life, but Machiavelli was a great book. Well, Machiavelli was an author. He wrote a book called The Prince, and he wrote several other things. It's a great way of looking at life because it's realistic. Reality is great. Reality is a great thing. And the reality is there'll always be a bunch of people who will not take advantage of an opportunity that is plainly in front of them because they are too unaware to notice it, and or they don't have the balls to take advantage of it. And the people who do take advantage, they're going to get looked at as bad people because they're taking advantage of an opportunity that you could have taken advantage of, but you just didn't do it. And I'm not saying in this situation. Some of you are in a situation where you don't have a choice because the money's coming out of your check. You can't stop it. Now, what you can do, actually, you do have a choice. If you want, this is not financial advice, but it is true, is that if you start a business, even a small side hustle business, keeping your job, you can take tax deductions that you cannot take while just having a job. Even if your small side hustle business makes you $100 a month, there are tax deductions you can take because you have that business that are not even available to you as an option as just an employee. Even if your job pays you $100,000 a year and your side hustle makes you $1,000 a year, you can save money on taxes because you have that $1,000 a year business that you cannot save with that $100,000 a year job. Y'all understand this? And again, it's not financial advice. Ask a tax professional or accountant before engaging in any financial vehicles, et cetera, whatever the disclaimer is. That's my disclaimer. Okay, it's not financial advice. I'm not an accountant, but y'all get my point. All right, when you run a business, you can take deductions. So when you run a business, I run a business. So when taxes are being done, there are certain things that I can take out that you can't take out when you have a job. So I have a home office. There's a deduction for having a home office. If I was to buy a printer, like I have two printers. I have a regular printer that prints regular sheets of paper. I have a laser printer that prints shipping labels. I can deduct those. I can deduct if I buy a new laptop, I can deduct that. If I buy a new iPad, I can deduct that. If I see this desk that I'm sitting at, if I was to replace this desk with another desk, I can deduct the cost of the desk from my taxes. And with certain, I'm speaking very general terms, but generally you can do this. So these are all things you can do when you own a business. Damn near anything that I buy. If I buy stamps, I can deduct that. If I buy paper from my printer, that is a deduction. If I go to dinner, I went to dinner like 3 weeks ago with a guy I met at a business conference who lives also in South Florida. He, his wife, his kid, me, and my kid. My wife didn't go, and I paid the whole bill. All right, that is a deductible expense. Why? Because it's a business dinner. Why is it a business dinner? Because I know this guy from business, and we had dinner. All right, and again, this is not tax advice. All right, so nobody take this and just go do it because I said it. But what I'm saying is true at the same time. So these are all things you can deduct when you own a business. And other things, books. If I go to a business conference and it's $1,000 for the ticket, $2,000 for the flights, another $1,000 for the hotel, and I spend $1,000 on food while I'm there, all of that is deductible. All of that goes into my taxes. Why? Because I own a business. Now, if you do all that at work, you may have some options, but not nearly as much as they give to business owners. Why do they give business owners all these deductions? Because business owners create jobs. That's the reason why. Donald Trump is a business owner. He creates jobs. That's why he gets so many tax breaks. And he has a very good accountant at the same time. Very good accountant, who's very good at reading the tax code. I don't know how many pages. How many pages is the tax code in America right now? Anybody know? Tax code in America is probably 1,000 pages long. Let me ask ChatGPT. How many pages is the current United States tax code? So according to ChatGPT, the current U.S. hasn't given me an answer yet. It's thinking about it. The length of the U.S. tax code varies depending on what is included in the count. The core statutes, known as the IRC code, Internal Revenue Code, are found in Title 26 of the United States Code. According to the Government Printing Office, the IRC is 2,652 pages. When additional materials, such as Treasury regulations and official IRS guidance, are considered, it expands significantly. Then the tax code encompasses 75,000 pages. The tax code in the United States is 75,000 pages. So if you want to save money on taxes, I suggest you hire somebody who's willing to look through those 75,000 pages and save you some money. And if you own a business and you have a lot of investments, you got a lot of money, then it makes sense to pay the professional whatever you got to pay. The amount of money they're going to save you is more than the amount you got to pay them. Everybody understand? So where was I? We were talking about the price of groceries. All right, that's where we were. So I gave you all a little bit of a tangent there. Hopefully you appreciate that and it's valuable to you. So price is coming down as a result of multiple contributing factors. So if y'all want the price of eggs to go down, it's not going to be because Donald Trump said something or he posted something on social media. That's not how it works. And then the prices go up is not because Donald Trump said something or because of what he posted on social media. Sometimes there can be an immediate response like that, but that's not generally how big markets move. So the grocery market is there's an entire industry behind groceries. There's a whole book. I believe it's called The Secret Life of Groceries. Let me look it up because I read this book maybe about a year ago. Let me see if I can find it. It might have been 2 years ago when I read this book. I think it's called The Secret Life of Groceries. Yes, The Secret Life of Groceries by Benjamin Lorr, L-O-R-R. And this book the audio book is 9 hours long. And I remember reading this. It's a very interesting book. If you don't know anything about the industry of groceries, first of all, the margins on groceries are extremely thin. Y'all know what a margin is how much money is left over after you pay your cost for selling the product. So for example, I just bought this like a little desk clock that you turn it on. It will tick down different times when you, whichever side you turn it on. So 3 minutes, 5 minutes, a 60-minute timer, 30-minute timer, and you can set it to whatever manual time you want. So let's say that I sell this on Amazon. I bought this on Amazon for like $35. So let's say the cost for me to manufacture this, to get it all put together, to package it and to ship it to you, it costs me $25. It cost me $25 just to make it and get it into your hands. And I'm selling it for $35. My margin is $10. Everybody get it? The margins in the grocery store industry are never that big. All right, a $10 margin, they usually do it in percentage wise. So let's just call that, let's just call that 33% for just keep the math simple. So let's just say I have a 33% margin. Most businesses, if you have a 33% margin, you're killing it. That means what you sell, the difference between what you sell and what it costs for you to actually make the sale. And that's not even counting my ad spend and all of those other things. If you got a 33% margin, you're killing it. Whatever you're doing, just do more of it. The grocery store industry, for those of you who don't know, the margins there are like 1%. You understand? The margins in the grocery store industry are like 1%, meaning if I sell you a product for $100, it costs me $99 to make the sale. So I made $1 on the transaction, literally $1. I took $1 home on that whole transaction. You paid me $100, I took home $1. After I pay everybody else I got to pay, I got $1 left. That's the grocery industry. So any of you who believed when Kamala Harris was talking about we're going to put a stop to price gouging on grocery items, she sounded like a complete idiot. There's no price gouging on groceries. They don't make any fucking money. That's the reason why grocery stores they have to be so big. And how many transactions you got to do in a day to earn a profit when you're only making $1 on every sale? Someone asked, "Where's the speaker made?" Probably Marie. Probably. I'm pretty sure it was made in the C country. I got to be careful what names I say on TikTok, but probably in the country that starts with the letter C. So the margins there are extremely thin. So when the price of eggs goes up, it's not because the egg company is trying to make money off of you. All right, they're making a small profit on every sale. They raise their prices. That's because the markets, there's a whole lot of things that go into the markets. Where are these eggs coming from? What farms are supplying the chickens? What's going on with the chickens? How much does chicken feed cost? All right, where do we have to import these eggs from? Are they coming from America? Are they coming from another country? Is it costing us more money to put fuel on the planes to get them from that country over to here where we're selling the eggs? Do we got to pay more money to our staff? Have we lost staff and we got to replace new staff? Does it cost more money? You know, when you buy eggs, the little carton that they come in, is the carton costing more money? All of these things go into the cost of a product. And most people don't think about this. They're just looking at the president. Oh, the cost of eggs went up. The president's wrong. No, that's not the way it works. Think about all the things that go into the cost of an egg. First of all, the egg has to come from an animal. Where's that animal at? How much is it costing to feed and keep that animal, maintain the animal? How much is the fencing that we got to build to keep the animal safe so the foxes don't come in there and eat my chickens overnight? How much feed do we got to pay for the chickens? Where's the grass? How much do we got to pay for the property taxes for this farm that we own for these chickens over here? What do we got to pay to keep the chickens safe? I mean, not safe, but healthy. Do we got to pay a chicken doctor to come see the chickens that his prices go up? All of these things factor into the cost of an egg. All of that stuff goes into it. So when people are like, oh, it's been 2 weeks, Donald Trump didn't bring down the price of eggs. Some of these people are too dumb to understand what I just explained. Some of them are. I would say about 60% of them. The other 40% are just doing it because they're just looking for engagement. Trashing Donald Trump gets you a lot of engagement on social media. Like if I wanted to just trash Donald Trump, I could get a whole lot of fans very quickly because I'm articulate enough that I could do it if I wanted to. So many of them, they may not understand it at the detail level that I just explained, but they generally understand that the president does not make the cost of fucking groceries increase or decrease. Again, now every president will take credit if prices go down. They'll all take credit. Donald Trump will take credit if they go down. And if the prices go up, then they'll just blame somebody else. This is politics. In case any of you didn't know, in case any of you was sleeping under a rock or you were just born yesterday, happy birthday. This is how politics work. All right, they blame the other person when it goes wrong. They take credit when it goes right. And Donald Trump did not start this. He's not the only one who does it. So when it comes to Trump, it's not that simple as I just explained. They cannot make prices go down with the stroke of a pen. That's not possible. The government does not control the economy in America. They influence it. They don't control it. And when it comes to Trump, everybody exaggerates everything about him, either most of the time trying to make him look bad. But we know that the game gets played this way with the economy. If it's bad, again, you blame the previous or you blame Congress. And if it's good, then you take credit for it. That's the way it works. Now, good thing is Donald Trump right now has a majority, and he got Congress, and he has, of course, the executive branch. So anything goes good, and he can say, look at all of us doing these great things. And if things go bad, then, of course, he's going to get trashed. He's already getting trashed. Moving on to the next point. I got a couple more get to questions. Lost labor due to deportation. So this is the other thing that people were saying when they talk about the deportations and the immigration situation was either they're going to take the kids. We talked about that already. Or, well, now that all these people are getting deported, they either are hiding and not coming to work because they might get deported if they go to work, or they're getting deported and now they can't go to work. And now the company that used to pay them doesn't have anybody to work. And now that company can't do anything because they don't have any workers, and now we don't have eggs, and now we don't have apples, and we don't have spinach because the company that produces the eggs and the apples and the spinach had a bunch of illegals working for them, and now all those illegals got deported, or they're hiding in their houses because they don't want to get caught coming to work. Now what do we do? This is all Donald Trump's fault, and now our prices are higher. Well, here's the thing you need to understand. Everything in life has a trade-off. I'm not saying this is actually true, but I'm saying everything in life has a trade-off. If Donald Trump and Tom Homan and the Border Patrol and ICE and all of these, if they are actually successful in mass deporting a bunch of people who are here illegally, especially if a lot of people they deport illegally are not just criminals who are bringing the value of the community down, but people who actually have jobs, I do believe there are a bunch of people who are here in this country illegally who actually have jobs and are doing a good job at their job that is helping the economy. I do believe that is true. We don't have to deny that, while at the same time admitting that if you're here illegally, you should be deported. Both are true. You can hold these two truths in your mind at the same time, even though they may be in conflict. It is very true that there are people who are here illegally right now who have a job. They're making $5 an hour, and they're picking apples out of an orchard or something and putting them in the basket, and those apples end up at your Whole Foods. Is that true? Yes. Are these people doing a good job? Yes. Are these people helping sustain an economy in some way? Yes. And are there business owners in America, American citizens who are paying these people and like it because they get to keep their labor costs low by hiring these cheap immigrants? Is that all those things true? Yes, 100% they are true. At the same time, is it also true that if you are here in America without proper documentation, you are here illegally and you must be caught and you should be shipped out if and when you do get caught? Is that also true? Answer is yes. Both are true. What's interesting to me is how people can't just admit both. Both of these are true. And what will happen, I said everything has a trade-off. Now, I got to be careful sometimes. I like giving people the game. So sometimes I go on tangents and I go off deep into something. Let me make sure I stay where I'm supposed to be here. The trade-off of deportation, trade-off of mass deportation in America, Tom Homan and Trump, et cetera, they were to do this, is that, of course, some of those deportations are kids who are, they can't contribute to society yet. They're not ready to. Some of them are people who are doing nothing or they're criminals and they should go. We get rid of them first. Those are the people who are being rounded up right now, by the way. These are not just everyday people getting rounded up. These are the criminals are going first. Then they got to go do a little bit more work to find the people who are not criminals. But when they start getting the people who are just generally contributing by doing their jobs and being good people, even though they happen to be illegal, when they start doing this, some of these people will be people who were good workers and now they have to be replaced by companies. That may cause prices to go up. Now, why would that make prices go up? In case any of you don't understand the chain of events, is that if I have some illegal immigrant working for me for $5 an hour, which is below the minimum wage, and then that illegal immigrant gets deported, let's say I had 10 of them, and they're each making $5 an hour, and now they all got deported. So now I got 10 job openings, and I must fulfill them, and I can't hire an illegal anymore because all the illegals got deported out of my town. Well, I got to hire somebody to do the job, or I got to shut down my business. So guess who I hire? I hire a bunch of Americans. Now, the Americans won't accept $5 an hour. That's actually below the minimum wage. I can't legally pay them $5 an hour. I got to pay them $10 an hour. So now, instead of having 10 people making $5 an hour and I'm paying $50 per hour as a labor cost, y'all get that? 10 people, $5, $50 an hour. Now I got 10 Americans who make twice as much money. So now my labor cost has doubled. Instead of spending $50 an hour for my staff, I got to spend $100 an hour for my staff, which means it's eating into my profits. And I'm a greedy businessman. And when I say greedy, I'm not saying it in a negative way or as a pejorative. I'm saying it. I am greedy. This is the reason why I run a business. It is my job to enrich myself. That's the reason why I run a business, to make money. I don't want to lose the money by having to pay twice as much for my staff. So here's what I'm going to do. I got two options. Either A, I'm going to fire half my staff and force the staff that I keep to work twice as hard. In other words, each person's going to be doing the job of two people. And if you work at a job right now where you feel like you're doing more than one person's job at the same time, put yes if you feel like you are doing the job of multiple people at the same time at your job right now. I know some of you fit this description. I've heard many people tell me that they've felt like that. So this is what companies do. When they can't pay or they don't want to pay, it's not they can't. They don't want to pay so many people so much money. What they do is they get good people. They get somebody who's good, and they just have you doing more than one person's job. The job that some of you are doing at your jobs, you may be doing a job of like 2 or 3 people. This actually could be 3 people working, but you're doing it all yourself. You should take that as a compliment that they're doing that because they see you as good enough to do it. And or here's the other thing they can do is they can just raise the prices of their products. The problem with raising the prices of your products is that customers might stop buying them because it costs too much. So companies generally don't want to raise their prices. They raise their prices kind of like holding their noses because they think we might lose our customers if we raise our prices too much. So the company that raised the prices of eggs, they don't want to raise the price of eggs because they know you might not buy them. That's going to cost them if they lose a customer. But at the same time, if they don't see any other option, they got to do what they got to do. Or they can try to get their workers to just work twice as hard and get one person doing 3 jobs. And then what happens is the person doing 3 jobs, they get burned out and they start complaining and they want more money. And at some way, the money got to come from somewhere. Y'all understand? The money has to come from somewhere. So when we have illegal immigrants working in the United States of America, that's actually making a lot of business owners money because instead of having to pay somebody $10 an hour, they can pay $5. They get to save $5 every hour. That $5 savings equates to you having a lower price for that product. But as soon as they got to pay somebody $10, again, I want to keep my money. I want to keep my profits. I want to keep my I want to keep my home by the lake. I want to keep my yacht. I want to keep my kid going to an Ivy League school that I pay for out of my pocket. I'm not taking a pay cut just because I got to pay an American twice as much as I was paying my illegal immigrant staff. So I'm going to make you pay for the difference, which means I'm raising my prices. Now, again, I may not want to do that because I might lose customers, but I'm raising my prices. This is how business works. This is the trade-off. So the trade-off of Donald Trump doing what he says he's going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is that your prices might go up as a result. Or if you have a job, you might be asked to do more work as a result of Donald Trump enforcing his claims about what he's going to do about illegal immigrants. So the question you should ask yourself is, are you okay with that? That's the question you should ask yourself. Let me ask the question to the audience. Yes or no? Are you okay with this scenario? Because this is what's going to happen. over the long term, this is what happens. Assuming that he does what he says he's going to do and gets a bunch of illegals out of the country, eventually they're going to start deporting people who have jobs. And those people must be replaced by Americans who need more money. That means prices are going to go up in some way. This may take a long time before this happens. The chain of events may take a while. It might not be till the end of his term that we actually start to see the results of this, but this is going to happen. So are you okay with it? That's the question. If you're not okay with it, then you should have voted for Kamala Harris. That's honestly, that's not even a joke. I'm laughing, but I'm not joking. All right, if you're not okay with this, you should have voted for Kamala Harris, because they were okay with more people coming into the country, even without proper documentation. They can go get jobs and they can do things to support businesses. And again, there are American business owners who are glad that there are illegals working in the country because they don't have to get paid as much as an American. Americans have a higher standard of living. They demand more money. This is what it is. Okay, let me continue. Let me get through my points here so we can actually get to the conversation. So I already told you about the possible lost labor. The good thing, actually, there's another trade-off of this that I forgot about. This needs to be said. So when more illegals are shipped out, American citizens get to do these jobs. First of all, what this does is it gives a job to somebody who doesn't have a job. So there are Americans out there right now, some of you may know, some Americans out there right now who don't have a job, but they want to have a job. And this is what I talked about when I did the whole live about how America does immigration wrong, is that immigrants come into this country, especially those who are undocumented or get fast-tracked to legal status, and they're taking jobs that otherwise would have went to an American. And I can very much understand how an American who's been here for generations looks at a job that they want and they see a bunch of illegals working there, or immigrants, period, working there. And they're like, how did they get the job? My family been here for 6 generations. I can't get a job. This person just got here 3 months ago. They got a job. How is that possible? So there are many Americans who say, hey, I just want a job, period. Any job. But I can't get one because I got this job competition from people who ain't even from here. Again, can you go to another country and just start taking jobs from the locals? No. No other country in the world can you just do this. You can't take a job that would have went to someone who's a local in other countries, not nearly as easily as it happens here in the United States. And the fact that we're a capitalist society plays a big role in that. I'm not knocking capitalism. I'm telling you, as I just told you, it's a trade-off for everything. Trade-off of capitalism is people prioritize money. And when you prioritize money, if you can get the same work done for cheaper, you do it. This is the mindset of a business owner. If I got 10 employees, spots that need to be filled, if I can get 10 people who can get the job done for cheap, I'd rather have them than pay 10 Americans who need more money, because you got to pay for school and kids, and you got a certain lifestyle you expect. Where this person, he just came from some Mexico and he's used to living on $2 a day. Oh, I'd rather hire him than hire you. Now I know you're pissed off about that, but hey, I'm running a business here. And again, in a capitalistic society, people tend to prioritize what's going to benefit them financially. This is just a trade-off of it. So supply and demand, folks. More Americans will have more jobs as more people get deported. The problem is those Americans got to get paid. That means you, as a consumer, had to pay for that. Everybody got it? Next. Exiting long-standing agreements. We're talking here today. We're fact-checking things people have been saying about Donald Trump. So Donald Trump, again, America first. One thing you can't say about Donald Trump is that he isn't keeping it real with the things he said he was going to do. America first is he wants to focus on, he said this in his first run, that we got to get out all these agreements in which we are giving more than we're getting. And most of the agreements America is in, we give more than we get. So this is indeed happening. He's either doing it or he's threatening to do it. Every one of them is being framed as if it is weakening America or making our position less advantageous. And each of these are up to very wide ranges of interpretation, depending on how deep you want to go on each one. I'm not going to go deep on any of them, but I am talking about the general point. Reality is the United States is still the strongest company in all the agreements that we've been in. Strongest country, excuse me. There are only 2 other countries that even come close to us in terms of power, and none of them are in the same agreements that we're in. One of them is the C country that runs TikTok, and the other one is the R country that is at conflict right now, and their leader is a guy named VP. I know I can't say their name on this app. I've said it before, and TikTok said don't say their name, so I can't say their name. Those are only 2 countries that come close to us in power, and they're not in any of these agreements. So all the agreements the United States is in or exiting under Donald Trump, we are the strongest party, and we are giving more than we're getting. Like, what can these other countries do for us? What can any one of these other countries do for us? Can any of you name one of the countries that we're in an agreement with that can do something for us that we couldn't find a way to do on our own? Or any country that gives more to us than we're giving to them? Can any of you name one? And what the thing is that they're giving that is more than what we give them? because the biggest thing the United States offers to all these other countries, as you can see, with that issue happening with Mr. VP and that country that starts with the letter U, is that if you come under attack, we will help you. That's the biggest thing every country needs. If you come under attack, we, with the strongest military in the world, we will help you. That's the biggest thing we offer every other country in the world. There's nothing any other country can offer us that equates to or surpasses that. So Donald Trump is looking at this as a businessman. Remember who Donald Trump is. He's a businessman. He's a capitalist. He said, why are we giving so much to this country and they ain't giving us? They can't afford to give us what we're giving them. Why are we helping them? Why are we helping this country? What are they doing for us? That's a very good question. That's a question that needs to be answered. What is this country doing for us and why are we doing so much for them? Why? Is it out of a kindness of our hearts? Is it out of empathy? Fuck that. That's not how business works. Why are we doing this? Again, if somebody has an answer to this question, I'm waiting. Please tell me. Please tell me, what are these countries doing that helps us, that equates to what we're doing to help them? Again, I'm not saying they can't help at all. Right? Maybe we import bananas from some country and they got better bananas than we got. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, are those bananas worth what we can do for them if they happen to come under fire? All right, can they help us the way that we can help them? The answer is no, they can't help us. So a president who says America first, I understand him doing what he said he was going to do, which is emphasizing our country and not giving so much to these other countries for the seemingly doesn't seem to be in equitable situations. You want to talk about equity? All right, there's some equity for you right there. So let's move on to the next point. We are talking here today, and I'm going to answer questions when I'm done. We're talking here today about the Trump stories that have been told about Trump, and we're fact-checking things that people have been saying about him so far. Moving on to the next one. Oh, thank you for the gift. True 3 Noah, appreciate you, sir. Yeah, appreciate you, sir. If that's, I don't know, is that a man? True 3 Noah, appreciate you. So leaders of much weaker countries playing tough in the media. This is funny. It's funny when I see this. Y'all seen the president is it president in Mexico? Is that what they're called? The president? So you see this president in Mexico making all these videos talking tough. Like, what's she going to do if Donald Trump does whatever he says he's going to do? And then you say Trudeau from Canada, he's talking tough. He ain't really talking tough. He's just saying, hey, I don't want to have to do this, but if the United States does this, we're ready to respond, etc. So you hear these people talking this. What are they actually going to do? I think we got some Canadians who are listening to this. And all due respect to you Canadians, if push comes to shove, Canada's going to fall. Push came to shove, Canada's falling down. The United States ain't falling down from a shove from Canada. And damn sure not from Mexico. Like, that's a joke. And the point here is not to diss those countries in general. I've been to both places, spent time in both places, have friends from both places. I like both places. At the same time, it's always funny to me when these leaders from other countries, and especially these small countries, talk tough about what they're going to do if the United States does ABC, if they're going to do DDF. Like, you ain't got the power to do DDF. And if you did, it ain't going to last too long before you run out of power. All right, you're going to run out of bullets before we do. Do you think Donald Trump understands this? Yes, he does. And that's why he's been calling these countries bluff. You saw what happened with the deportation plane a couple of weeks ago. What country was that? Was that Colombia? I think it was Colombia. Because everybody was talking about, the cost of coffee is going to go up because Donald Trump did this and this and this. Yeah, and like an hour later, they backed down. Did that happen? See, they didn't tell you about the back down part. See, the news made all that noise about how the cost of coffee is going to go up, and all your favorite leftist politicians made all that noise about how the cost of coffee is going to go up because of Donald Trump's recklessness. An hour later, Colombia acquiesced and did exactly what Donald Trump wanted them to do, and nobody said anything. Those same people didn't say anything. They were real quiet when things actually happened. And there'll be many more of these moving forward because, again, this is all theater, ladies and gentlemen. Keep in mind, this is all political theater. All of them are just showing off. So people get in the media, talk about how they're not going to back down from Donald Trump, not going to be bullied by Donald Trump. And I understand why they're doing it, because you can't be a leader of a country and then looking like a bitch and getting punked by the leader of another country. You can't do that. So they got to say something. But at the same time, they really don't have the power to do any of the stuff that they're talking about. The United States of America could turn the country to the north of us, the country to the south of us, into a parking lot within 24 hours, if it wanted to. I don't think that's going to happen. I hope it does not happen. I've been to both places and I like them. But let's keep it real. The same way that the R country, led by Mr. VP, could turn the U country into a parking lot in 24 hours if it wanted to. I hope it doesn't. There's a lot of beautiful women come out of the U country, to be honest. But at the same time, let's keep it real. A lot of people don't want to acknowledge these realities, but these are the realities. Moving on to the next point. All right, Democratic politicians fanning the flames and fear mongering on social media. I ain't really got to talk about that. We already know what that looks like and sounds like. I ain't even got to go into that. Last one. Media and politicians reframing, taking every story out of context and presenting it in the worst possible light. This is not news. All of you have seen this. All of you know about it. Maybe you weren't able to quite pinpoint exactly what was happening, but this has been happening for 10 years pretty much now with Donald Trump, from when he first announced he was going to run in 2015 to now. It's been 10 years. So we know what the media is doing. We know what politicians are doing. They take anything that is connected to his name and make it look as terrible as possible. And all that's doing is not, well, actually it's doing two things. Number one, it is stirring up fear and consternation amongst people who don't think critically, because they already don't like Donald Trump. So any negative thing they hear about him, they get more excited in a negative way. And or it is stirring up their base politically, so that they look like a person who you're going to see that after Trump's term is over. So the next election is going to be what, 2028 for president. The next Donald Trump election, you're going to see a whole lot of politicians pushing themselves under the guise of, I stood up to Donald Trump. You're going to hear so many people saying that in 2028. Write this down. Remember that I told you this. You're going to see a whole bunch of Democrats pushing this. I stood up to Donald Trump. I didn't back down from Donald Trump, whatever. Then you're going to see a whole lot of Republicans, some of them who are anti-Trump Republicans, saying, I stood up to Donald Trump. And then you're going to see the people who are supporters of Donald Trump. They're going to get attacked with, this guy was a supporter of Donald Trump. Look at all negative things Donald Trump did. So the residue of Trump is still going to exist in the 2028 election cycle. Mark my words. Remember that I told you that. So anybody who supported him or was with him, they're going to get trashed for it. And anybody who was against him, they're going to try to use that as a talking point. Hey, I was against Donald Trump, so that means you should vote for me. So the election is still going to be about him, even though it's not about him. The 2028 election is going to be about Donald Trump, even though he won't be running. So all this works for them because it galvanizes their fan bases. And again, I've already explained this many different times, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. Let's get to the comments. I went about an hour and a half on this, so let's see what you all got. I'm going to start over on YouTube, then I'll go to Instagram. There's only a couple on those, and then I'll go to TikTok where the most activity is. So if you got something on TikTok, I'll get to y'all in 1 second. YouTube says, Mad Villainy says, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial. Yes, you got to give people that disclaimer. You can get sued these days if somebody follows your advice, and you got to give a disclaimer at all times. Zach says, I have a question regarding tax breaks as a business owner. I drive a truck. Thought about becoming an owner operator, buying my own truck. Do these tax breaks apply to an owner operator? So Zach, I would refer you back to the previous comment. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial professional. I would suggest you, first of all, you consult a tax professional or accountant. If you already have one, just ask them that question. They can answer it. You can take that exact question that you just asked Zach and pop it in the chat GPT. It will give you a pretty good compendious answer. And third, if you own a business and you have documentation that you own the business, especially if you have an EIN, employee identification number, now you have access to some tax advantages that you would not have access to any other way. So that's my answer to your question. O-Dog said, the price of goods go up, they print money, or if the cost of fuel goes up. Yes, cost of fuel is another one. I talked about that. If it costs more money, if you're importing goods from Brazil, and to get from Brazil to here, from Brazil to Oklahoma, you need an airplane, and the cost of the gas on the airplane goes up, then the cost of your goods might go up. So there's a whole lot of pieces that go into this. This is called the supply chain. So any of you ever heard of the supply chain? The supply chain is several things. There's the airplanes. There's the cost of the pieces on the airplanes. There's the cost of flying, period. There's the people who work there. There's the chickens if it's eggs. There's the hatching of the chicken, hatching of the eggs, or not hatching, the taking care of the chickens. There's making sure the foxes don't come in and eat the chickens. There's the cost of getting stuff to the grocery store. How much you got to pay the delivery guy who drives the big truck and brings them into the store. Is all of those things go into this. So the supply chain is several pieces, and if anything in the supply chain breaks, then that can cause a problem in the entire system. But again, a lot of people just looking at the president like, oh, he made prices of eggs go up. No, he didn't. And he won't make them go down either. Zach, appreciate it. And come to Work on Your Game University. I can help you with that in much more detail. Going over to dreuniversity.com. We got the domain dreuniversity.com. Hawaii 1902. Good morning over there on IG. Darian, good morning. O-Dog said Americans are going to have to decide if they want to maintain a country. It takes labor to do so. Exactly. And labor costs money. That's the trade-off of what Donald Trump is telling you all. So for everybody, remember, I'm re-emphasizing this. If you are okay with Donald Trump doing what he says he's going to do, then that means more Americans are going to have jobs and Americans got to get paid. So that means costs are going to go up one way or another. If you're an employer, you got to pay more. And if you're a consumer, we're all consumers, we got to pay more. That is the price of what Donald Trump is proposing to do. You can't have it all and not pay for it. It doesn't work like that. Y'all heard of the phrase, paid the cost to be the boss. Federal tax paid debt owed to other countries. Yeah, it does. Yeah, we're still in debt. So I get what you're saying. Kev said, no way you're defending tax dodging. It's not tax dodging. It's not tax dodging. It's operating within the tax code, Kev. It's not dodging is illegal. And you can get caught doing that and pay a fine or go to jail if you are actually dodging and they prove that you're dodging. But if you are keeping more of your money, which is actually what I'm talking about, Kev, keeping more of your money instead of giving it to the government, why would you not do that? Again, why would you want to give your money to the government? It's your money. If I got a job and they say we're going to pay you $1,000 a week, and then I get my check and it's only $800, where's my $200? The government took it. That's my money. It's not the government's money. That's my money. I don't owe it to the government. There was a time in America where there was no income tax. And a lot of you don't know. Kev said, what happened to I work hard and pay my taxes? Well, who are you quoting there, Kev? Not me. You never heard me say that. I don't know where you got that from. I don't know what happened to it. You got to ask the person who said it. Marie said, everyone is fully aware the United States has been in debt since the Constitution. Well, yeah, and it's gotten bigger. That's the issue. It's getting worse, Marie. It'd be one thing if they were in debt and it was getting smaller. It's getting bigger. DJ Mars says, called insider trading and corrupt politicians stealing federal money. Well, insider trading laws don't apply to certain federal politicians. Calling it out says, being fully aware makes it okay to take money and spend it on things that don't benefit us. No, well, that's a straw man question, calling it out. But what are you referring to? Is okay to take money? What money are you talking about? Because if you have a job that pays you $1,000 a week and you get all $1,000, you're not taking money. That's your money. You earned it. Taking money means you're taking it from somewhere that maybe it doesn't belong to you and now is yours. That alone is a crime. But if it's my money, let's say I run a business and I make $100,000 a year. That money, that's my money. That's not the government's money. That's my money. So I'm not taking it. I earned it. How did I get the money? Yes, be more. Thank you for putting that link in. U.S. debt clock. Jordan said, thought our national debt was supposed to go down. Well, all debt is supposed to go down. It ain't going down. That's the issue. All debt is supposed to go down, but it ain't going down. It's not because of any one president. That's because of the entire system. Marie said, we are literally last in education. Our infrastructure is from the 1940s. I agree. Marie, I've done entire live streams trashing the education system. So if you want to indulge in that, look on YouTube. Oh, yeah, by the way, those of y'all watching me on TikTok, my YouTube link is in my profile. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I've been suspended from TikTok 6 times in the last 6 months because I said the wrong thing or I was talking about a subject and somebody who was watching it didn't like what I said. So they flagged my live and then I get suspended for a week. This happened 6 times in the last 6 months. So if you like what you're hearing here today, those of you on TikTok, I'm looking at y'all. Click the link in my profile on TikTok and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm live on YouTube right now as well. So just in case any more shenanigans happen on TikTok, which I'm pretty sure they will, you still have a way to catch these live streams. Because if I'm suspended on TikTok, I will still be going live, just not on TikTok. Marie said, I want people in office that truly care about America and the people. I think Trump comes the closest. That's what I think. Of the options that we had the last 3 elections. So it was him, Hillary, Biden, or Kamala. I think he comes the closest. What do you think, Marie? Fiona said, don't hate the player, hate the game. No, don't even hate the game. Play the game. That's what everybody needs to do is play the game. That's why I asked the question that I asked. If you had a way of not having to pay as much in taxes, you can keep that money and it was legal, would you do it? Most of you said yes. Mercy says it's true. Not all money said to be sent to the U country was actually sent. Well, it depends. You have to read the bills. And the thing is, with the money going to the U country for that battle with the R country, is the money's going to defense spending. So it's going to companies, often here in America, who make the tools that countries use to fight in wars. So the money's actually going to defense companies. So if you want to make a whole lot of money through the government, ladies and gentlemen, get into defense. Get into the defense business. Cute and Classy said, who's going to fund the country? All the dummies who don't take advantage of the tax breaks that are available to them. I told you all that already. Calling it out said, the people who care about us actually tells us the truth. The Nile is not a river in Egypt. So who are those people calling it out? Who are you talking about? Sweetie said, the government stated after Yeah, they said war. Yeah, exactly. And they didn't do it. Fiona said Trump does what every rich person does regarding their taxes. Or he does what every smart person does regarding their taxes. You don't have to be rich. You can be smart and not rich. I told you all exactly what to do. You can have a side hustle business that makes you $100 a month and take a lot of the tax breaks, maybe not all of them, but a good number of tax breaks that you otherwise wouldn't have. Marie said, what happens when we all take advantage? Well, that's a false question because not everybody's going to take advantage. Marie, name anything that is a good thing that's available to all human beings that everybody actually takes advantage of. Name one. And when you realize that you can't name one, then you see that I've answered your question in a way that your question is actually a false question. It sounds like a good question, but it's actually not a good question. Is anybody here who thinks going to the gym is a bad idea? No. But does everybody go to the gym? No. Does anybody here think drinking water is a bad idea? No. But does everybody drink water? No. Does anybody here think reading books or investing in personal development is a bad idea? I think everybody thinks that's a good idea. Does everybody do it? No. So just because something could actually help everybody, does everybody actually do it? The answer is hell no. So Marie, again, your question will work well in a elementary school classroom, but not here. I get what you're trying to say, but no. Marie said that's true with a 1099, but you better keep your receipts. These days it can be electronic. I don't keep receipts. I don't even like touching receipts. Y'all know about receipts that when you go to a store and they give you the actual receipt, that little piece of paper, that thing is like toxic. The actual paper itself is toxic. So next time you go to the grocery store and they take the receipt and they try to hand you the receipt, tell them you don't need it. Most of you are making electronic payments anyway. You don't need the receipt. Just check your account and you can see exactly how much money you spent, what you need the receipt for. And at the end of the year, if you need receipts to show to your accountant or to the government, all you do is just go on your account, your bank account or your credit card account and just get the PDF and just print it all out. You don't need the actual paper receipt. Those things are toxic. If any of you knows the details of the toxicity, but my wife is telling me about it and I've seen people on the internet talking about it. Don't touch those receipts. They are toxic. And don't let your kids touch them. King Lowe said, the person who proposed this new tax plan filed bankruptcy 6 times. Well, that same person also, I'm glad you brought that up. That same person also was able to avoid paying taxes when he makes millions of dollars a year, whereas some of you make thousands of dollars a year and you're paying more in tax than him. So who's smarter, him or you, when it comes to saving money on taxes? Secondly, he filed bankruptcy 6 times and he became president twice. So, I mean, what are you saying? A lot of companies filed bankruptcy. Who was it that filed bankruptcy? It was the Container Store. I know the Container Store. They filed They just went through Chapter 11 bankruptcy. I just got an email from them like a week ago that said we just finished doing our restructuring of our Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Filing bankruptcy does not necessarily mean that you're bad with money. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're good, but doesn't necessarily mean that you're bad. Filing bankruptcy is just a way of restructuring your debt. And if you got a certain amount of it, it makes sense to restructure it rather than try to dig your way out of it. That's what Trump did 6 times. And he came back from all 6. I think we can agree to that. So King Lowe, I get what you're saying here. You're pointing out some of his, I guess, what some people will call failures. But despite all those failures, look where he's at now. He got the biggest job in the country. So, I mean, what about that part? Calling it out says, I know people who have money collecting public assistance by putting business under trust. Hey, if it works, it works. As long as it's legal. I'm not telling you to do anything illegal. Okay, I want to be clear. Calling it out says bankruptcy is another way to use other people's money. Exactly. Marie said, not everything is a write-off. Yeah, I said I was painting with a very broad brush. It depends on what it is. And there's a percentage of write-offs. That's the way it works. So certain things you can deduct. For example, certain meals you can deduct 100%. Certain meals only 50%. So again, the tax code is 775,000 pages, folks. So again, don't take anything I'm telling you as financial advice or accounting advice or tax advice. And don't take anything you read in the comments as financial advice. But directionally, everything I'm telling you is accurate. Let's see. Calling it out said, you can get a car, just use it for DoorDash, write it off as an expense. Yes, you can. Fiona said, I wish people with TDS had the same ammo for the Dems. It's not the ammo, Fiona, it's the energy. TDS is an energy. It's not about the information. It's about the energy. The fact that people hate Trump allows them to create information. See, there's nobody on the Democrat side who generates that much hate and energy. Therefore, the information is irrelevant. Information is boring. Information is only exciting when there's some energy behind it. Donald Trump brings energy. That's why people talk about him so much. That's why I'm talking about. He generates energy, and energy brings attention. Let's see. Master Gardner said grocery stores are taking home less profits. Yeah, grocery stores don't make a lot of profit. That's why they had to do so many transactions to make money. Again, the book is called The Secret Life of Groceries. You want to read it, any of you. Calling it out says, does it matter to buy local from farmers or from the grocery? Does it matter? That's a very, it depends on what you mean by that, matter. A lot of people like to support local businesses because it supports the local economy. So, for example, if I'm going to the hardware store, I need something from the hardware store, and there's a Walmart right here, and there's a local hardware store right here. I might buy it from the local hardware store because I want to support the man who owns that business because he's standing right there at the counter. And if I support him, then he can make more money. Now he can keep paying his property taxes. He can keep his house in the neighborhood, and I like him, so it's supporting the neighborhood. But if I go buy that screwdriver from Walmart, I'm just supporting the big business Walmart, and Walmart might offer me a better price. Let's say the screwdriver is $5 at the local guy spot, but it's only $3 at Walmart. If I'm counting my pennies, I might go buy it from Walmart. And that eventually, if enough people make that same decision, it might put the local hardware store owner out of business. And that's part of the game. That's not necessarily a negative thing. Some people see it as very negative. This is why big companies have a lot of enemies. Companies like Amazon and Walmart have a lot of enemies because when they come into a town, they put a lot of businesses out of business because of the competition. But competition is the spirit of capitalism, is the spirit of what America is based on, competing. Everybody has an open opportunity to compete. If you get beat, you get beat. So to answer your question about buying local, this is one of the reasons why people do it. Because they want to support the local business, or they want to support the small guy, or whatever you want to call it. And that doesn't make them wrong. It's a personal choice. The challenge of supporting the local business is often you're doing it when supporting the local business will cost you more money as a consumer than it would if you paid the big business. So one of the reasons big businesses become big is because they have economies of scale. They have advantages financially that the local business does not have. So they can just undercut you on price until they basically squeeze you. They squeeze you until you can't make any money, and now you got to close your doors. That's what they do. That's literally the purpose. That's why they exist. So Walmart comes into town. They look at your prices. They undercut you on all your prices. They take everything you sell in your store and they sell it for cheaper. And eventually you ain't making any sales because they got cheaper. They got the same product for cheaper than what you have it for, because everybody who used to come to you is now going to Walmart. Now you're out of business. That's the game. That's the way the game works. And Walmart's actually a good example here. Any of you who hasn't read Sam Walton's book, I believe it's called Only in America or Made in America. Any of you read that book by Sam Walton? Sam Walton's the guy who started Walmart, by the way. And his heirs is like 6 or 7 of them. If you read the Forbes 400 billionaires list, all of them are on a list with the exact same amount of money. That's how rich Walmart is. Because he left his money to his heirs, his kids, and then their kids got married. His kids got married. All the people from his family are all on the billionaire list, and they all got the exact same amount of money because he left a certain amount to each one of them. And that's how much money Walmart has. And Sam Walton, when he started Walmart, here's what he used to do. He would go to the other stores in town. They used to call them 5 and dime stores, nickel and dime stores. That's how much stuff cost back in the day, inflation. He would go to their stores, see exactly what they were doing, see what they were selling, how much they were selling it for. He would measure the size of the shelves. He would see how far off the ground they were. He would actually bring a tape measure and actually do this in his competitor's store. And they would see him doing it. They couldn't kick him out because all he was doing was just getting information. And then he would use whatever he learned and do it better than them. And that's how he started putting them out of business. That's how Walmart became Walmart. This dude was a competitor. He was a bloodthirsty competitor. And Walmart's Walmart. So someone said it was proven that the egg industry purposely price gouges us. You would have to, well, when you say it was proven by who and when? Calling it out said, doesn't matter. All right, answered that. Someone said with the production of energy, prices will start to come down. We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully they do. I will appreciate if prices go down, but I don't expect generally over the long term, I don't expect prices to go down. I expect prices to go up. Generally, that's what I expect due to inflation. But what you said there directionally is correct, Master Gardner, is that if energy is cheaper, then those prices should trend downward. The question is, what's the trade-off of that cheaper energy? Dog Mom said they had to get rid of a lot of chickens because of the bird flu. Yes, that's another thing. And again, we don't even know, because that could be happening in another part of the world that we don't pay attention to. So let's just say there's a cold front in the country that produces all the chickens, and all the chickens are dying, so they don't have any eggs. So now our costs are going up, and people are like, "Oh, that's because of Trump." It has nothing to do with Trump. Trump doesn't control the weather. But you ask the right person, they probably think he does. Marie says, who also own pharmaceutical companies. Is that no, that wasn't? Yeah, that was Marie. Yes. All right. Master Gardner says E-Verify. Megan, I don't know what your question was referring to. Lee and Lisa said hiring cheap labor stifles innovation. What do you mean by that? It could, but it depends. Megan said, why are we paying them less than the living wage? Because they accept it. That's how capitalism works. People get what they accept, not what you need. And that's the way life works, as a matter of fact, for all you entrepreneurs out there. You get what you accept, not what you need. And there are 3 levels of making money. You accept it, you negotiate, or you demand. The highest level is to demand. If you're a high level performer in your industry, then you can demand a certain salary. If you're a low level, entry level, then you pretty much got to accept what you can get. That's how it works. Lisa said, I hold both truths in my head, but they're also getting exploited. Yes, well, welcome to humanity. That's what humans do. We exploit things. So when we see an opportunity, we exploit it. That's what you should do. Lucy said, why can't we give a path to citizenship to those people who come here to work? Well, Kamala Harris, that's what she wanted to do. But the country decided they didn't want that. That was part of Kamala's campaign. The country said, no, we don't want that. And the thing is, one thing is, Lucy, is that they're taking away jobs from people who already live here. So that's one argument against, to answer your question. Marie said, who is going to take those workers' places picking apples for less than $5? Well, I already explained it. The company's got to pay more money, and or what's actually going to happen, I'll say over the next 10 years, is that they're going to be AI robots that can pick those apples. And they're going to be people at all. People will be out of jobs. There won't be jobs for American, immigrant, anybody, because they're going to be AI robots to do those jobs. So there will be no humans doing these entry-level jobs. Megan said, we want Starbucks baristas to make $20 an hour or more. Are you being sarcastic or are you being serious? If you're being serious, if Starbucks realized they had to pay their baristas $20 an hour, they said, fast track that AI program. Call Amazon, call Jeff Bezos, and ask him how quickly can he get those AI baristas in here, because we about to replace all these mofos. We ain't paying $20 for somebody to make coffee. And any of you works at Starbucks, that's the conversation you're having right now anyway. I'm making sure y'all understand this. Casey said, yes. Okay, I can't remember what question I was asking. Yes, you are self-employed. Okay. Megan said, you are arguing to continue breaking the law. That's not breaking the law. Whatever you're referring to. Nothing I said here is advising you to break the law. So I don't know what you're referring to. Corona Blue said, we go through 4 years of high prices and crimes. Well, prices are still going to be high. High prices are relative, by the way, everyone. If you make $1 million a week, then the cost of eggs is not on your radar. Now, if you make $50,000 a year, then you're looking at the price of everything you put in your cart. So what I suggest to people, has always been my suggestion, is go over the top of the problem. That's what I call going over the top of the problem, is make more money so that you don't even care about the cost of it. I don't know how much eggs cost, and I don't care. I do shop for groceries, but I don't care. I don't look at the price of things and I put them in my cart. You want to make enough money that you don't care how much eggs cost. I'm only bringing it up because I hear people talking about it. But you actually don't want to be involved in these kind of problems. Let's see. Michelle said, because they're bilingual, that is taking jobs from Americans who only speak English. Okay, that's a good point. Now, the thing is, yeah, being bilingual is an advantage to get the job, but that's a skill that anybody can develop. You could be an American and learn how to speak Spanish or whatever other language. So technically, yes, that's a good point. But it depends on what kind of work you're doing as well. If you're picking apples, it doesn't matter what language you speak, you ain't talking anyway. I was in Chipotle yesterday, and there was this Latin guy who pulled out. I was pulling my son out of the back seat of the car, in the car seat, and this dude was beeping his horn because my car door was open. He couldn't quite get into the parking spot. I guess he couldn't tell I was getting my kid out of the car. So then they go in Chipotle, I go in Chipotle, and I was right behind him. And I said something to him like, what the fuck is you beeping at? You see me pulling my kid out of the car. And he didn't say anything. He wouldn't even turn around and look at me. This pussy. And I don't think he spoke English. But he knew exactly what I was saying. And he saw me because he knew what I was saying and what I was communicating to him. And he wouldn't even turn around and look at me. I don't think he spoke English because they went and ordered their food. they were speaking Spanish. And the guy working the Chipotle line, he spoke Spanish. But when I got there and I was talking to him in English, in that case, Michelle, yes, you're correct. Lisa Ann, I appreciate you. I'm your favorite live. Thank you. Shauna said, no one is taking jobs from Americans. Jobs do you think Trump was talking about when he said black jobs? He was saying jobs that black people work. Black jobs. What is people still holding on to this black job thing? They tried that. Kamala Harris tried the whole black job thing. It didn't work, Shauna. It didn't work. The black jobs means people who are black who have jobs. And one of the things he was talking about is entry-level jobs. A lot of times immigrants come here and they work entry-level jobs. There are a lot of black people who work entry-level jobs. This is just a reality. The only reason people try to get excited about that is because Donald Trump said it and he's allegedly racist. So, he's at a black job and they're acting like this is some big deal. No, there's a lot of black people who work entry-level jobs like McDonald's, Chipotle, Starbucks. These are entry-level gigs. And immigrants come here to this country and they try to get entry-level gigs. So there creates a competition between the immigrants and black people for these jobs. Are there white people who work entry-level jobs as well? Yes. But what he was saying that as a way of getting black people's attention. There's just simple marketing is actually good campaign strategy. There's nothing wrong with what he said. And only black people who got excited about it and feigned anger about it were people who weren't going to vote for him anyway. And again, Kamala Harris tried to use that and it didn't work. All right, so let's see. Arla said other countries feed you. No, that's not true. I feed myself. And again, other countries, we provide more to them than they provide to us. So if they're providing resources, which I think what you're trying to say, that's fine. We provide them resources too. Again, if they get invaded by a powerful country, they can't defend themselves. How much is those apples worth? All right, when your head might get chopped off. So thank you, Bang Brig 50. I appreciate it. Current Mike said you'll be good for picking bananas when USA grows them. I think USA does grow bananas. Don't they grow bananas somewhere in America? In California, maybe? Arla said other countries aren't warmongers. So they don't have to be. That's the whole point. They don't have to be. The whole point is them not being warmongers is exactly the point. Because another country that is a warmonger can come take over. Then what they going to do? They got to fight back. They ain't got nothing to fight with. So they need America's help. Michael said our aid also equals world strongholds and safety for America. Safety from who, Michael? It depends on what countries you're talking about, but safety from who? There's only a handful of countries that have the power to do anything to us, and we got the power to do something to them. So most of the countries in the world, I think the last time I looked, 194 countries in the world, most of them can't play at the level that us, maybe the I country, the C country, and the R country are playing at. Most of the rest of them are spectators. If it came down to it, they're spectators. They can't do anything. Shang Deezy said felon president equals white supremacy. How do you draw a line between those two things? Why Fry has a Canada flag in their name and said, where can you get oil as cheap as you get it from Canada? Well, that's why Donald Trump said, drill, baby, drill. Someone said, isn't Trudeau resigning anyway? Yeah, but he didn't leave yet. He made the statement like 2 days ago. Salim said other countries can give us morals. All right, yeah, you keep believing that. Shifty PVOX says strong in what? When you say strong, what are you referring to? If there was a battle between the United States and Mexico, Mexico would cease to exist. And I like Mexico. I've been there several times. Got friends from Mexico. Several great stories I could tell you about Mexico. But what I just said is still true. Michael said, like you said, there's trade-offs everything if you quit doing the foreign aid. Yes, there are trade-offs. The thing is, I believe the trade-off is worse for them than it is for us. That's my point. And this is what Donald Trump has reasoned, and the reason why he's pulling out of so many agreements. That's the point. There is a trade-off for everything. Doesn't mean the trade-offs are equal. Trade-off does not mean 50-50. The trade-off of me waking up early in the morning to go to the gym is that I don't get to sleep. But I'd rather go to the gym and be in great shape than sleep an extra hour. Those are not equal. If I saw them as 50-50, then I might sleep an extra hour some days and go to the gym other days, but I get up every day because I see the trade-off of that of 90-10. 90% I like going to the gym, 10% I like to sleep. That's why I never sleep in. So let's not misconstrue trade-off to mean equal. Jeanette said, have you seen the price of coffee? No, because I don't drink coffee. Actually, I bought a Starbucks for my wife yesterday, but I don't even remember how much it costs. Again, as I told you, I don't care how much it costs. If any of you who's listening to this, we're going to go higher level here. All right. The cost of eggs, the cost of groceries, the cost of Starbucks. All right. These kind of things, you shouldn't even know how much these things cost. Who cares how much they cost? You want to position yourself professionally and business-wise to where you are earning enough money that it doesn't matter how much a fucking venti, is that what they call it? Venti? A venti latte costs at Starbucks. Why do you even know how much it costs? Why does it matter? Now, childcare, if you got something that's an actual bill, maybe you should care about that. Like childcare is $1,000, $2,000 a month, your rent, your car payment, those things, maybe you should care. But something that costs less than like $20, why does it matter how much it costs? You shouldn't care. Let's see. Lisa said most countries are going to be very poor, retiring at 60 and national health care are over. Yeah, maybe. It depends on how people adjust. It depends on how people adjust to changes in technology as well. Melissa said he will always live rent free in their head, or at least until he's out. I think over the next cycle they'll still be talking about him. Jeanette said, "What do I think about Elon Musk's access?" Well, I mean, he ran on it. Donald Trump ran on it. Elon Musk this guy is with me, and people voted for him, so he can set him up. He's running Doge, right? Elon Musk is I think we can agree, a successful businessman. I think there's some positive things that can be gleaned from what Elon Musk advises President Donald Trump on. That's what I think. And also, when Elon Musk bought Twitter and turned it into X, he fired 80% of the staff, and the app still works exactly the same. 80-20 principle. 80% of your results come from 20% of your inputs. And if he applies that to the government, there's going to be a lot of people losing their jobs. And it's already happening, as a matter of fact. Y'all watch the news. Danny said, I don't foresee another Democrat getting in office for a while. Don't speak too soon. There's going to be a strong Trump bounce back for just Americans. There's a whole bunch of Americans, half of America, let's just say roughly half, don't like that Trump is in office right now. So they're going to come vote for a Democrat at the next election. So you already got damn near a good amount. You got 49% of the votes you need. Now you just got to get about 2% of people to switch or get involved, period. Most elections are swung by how many people you can get to actually vote, not somebody changing from Democrat to Republican. It's just getting people to actually show up and vote, period. This last election, Donald Trump got a lot of people to show up and vote. Barack Obama, his first run, got a lot of people to actually come out their houses and actually go and vote. That's why he won. It wasn't so much that he switched people from one side to another. And the bounce back from Donald Trump being president again is going to generate a lot of momentum for the Democrats if they get the right candidate. They got to have the right candidate, of course. But I don't know who that is. I don't foresee who that is right now. It ain't going to be Kamala Harris. I will tell you that. Michelle says he's been president for 2 weeks. I already blame him for everything. It's a joke. Well, it is. It's actually a joke, Michelle. That's the whole point. The whole point is it draws attention. Trashing him draws attention. So people are doing it. And defending him draws attention. That's why I'm doing it. So anything that has Donald Trump's name in it is going to get a whole lot of attention. So all of us are guilty of this because that's what we're doing right now. We're talking about Trump. Jeanette said, it appears you own the house structure and never the land. America is corrupted. Yes, you don't own land. Land is not owned. Land is controlled and occupied. You don't actually own it. So when people talk about the Native Americans, this is their land, it was stolen from them. That's nonsense. They didn't own it. Christy says, the system is made for self-employed. Well, the system is made for entrepreneurs and investors. Self-employed get taxed pretty closely to how employees get taxed. If you want the system to really work for you, you need to be a business owner and you need to, I'm sorry. I think I sent somebody an invite by accident. I didn't mean to do that. So if you want to really get on the right side of how the government system is set up as far as taxation goes, you want to be a business owner or an investor. They get the most breaks. The self-employed is basically owning a job. But you set yourself up as a business. And by the way, you don't have to have employees to be a business owner. You can it's just your business structure. The key is the structure of your business. You can structure the business, own the business yourself, and basically have yourself as an employee. You don't have to have any staff other than yourself. But as long as you set it up that way, and again, this is not financial or tax advice. Talk to your accountant. And that's how you can structure it. You can get certain breaks that self-employed do not get. Verima says, yes, a lot of that money isn't actually money, it's weapons and ammo. Exactly. That is correct. And it's going to defense contractors. I know some people in the defense contracting business. Great business to be in. Any of you want to get in it? I'm not in it, but that Rita said, what's the toxic chemical? I don't know the detail of it, but I've heard many people say it. I can't remember what they told me, but I didn't retain it. But you can Google that and it'll tell you. Jane said the IRS likes hard copy receipts. At least they used to. Yeah, they used to. If they're looking into you, now, ideally you don't have them looking at you in the first place. I've never had the IRS look into me. Knock on wood. So yes, I know what you're saying there, Jane. That's if they're looking into you. Duval said bankruptcy is a strategy of the wealthy. Yes, exactly. A lot of people talk about Trump's bankruptcies like that means he's not good with money. Well, I would challenge that. They always bring up, yeah, they do. So yeah, a bunch of you understand it. Going bankrupt is a financial tactic. Yes, it is a way of restructuring your debt, amongst other things. Jeanette said modern day mafia in the White House. I don't know about that one, Jeanette. I don't know about that. Lisa said, I buy from local because they sponsor our little league teams. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because there are ways that a local business can fight back against the encroachment of big businesses. And one of them is to build the relationship. And business comes down to relationships, ladies and gentlemen. That's what business is. Business is all about the relationships. You have a solid enough relationship with your customers. Even if some other business comes in and offers lower prices, your customers will stick with you because they know you, like you, and trust you. That's really how you want to do business. You don't want to do business just based on numbers. All right, buy from me because I got the lowest price. That's what we call a race to the bottom because somebody's going to undercut you on price, guaranteed. So one day somebody's going to come along with a better price than you. If that's all you got, you lose all your customers. The relationship is what you want. Jeanette said, I hate Walmart. I get it. I understand. Lisa said, Lisa, they expect what America gives and take away from those who deserve. Yeah, I think that's pretty much true. Jeanette said, do you know what the effect will be for big banks? We'll have to see. If that was easy to predict, then a lot of people will be making a lot of money in the stock market very easily. We can't always predict what's going to happen in financial markets. I think crypto is going to do some things to big banks. Cam in K-Town said, if illegals come to work, why was the country paying millions to feed and house them? That's a good question. You should ask Joe Biden if you can find him. Wake him up and ask him. Dr. J says, exactly. I tell my friends all the time, you got to make more money. Yes, that's the actual solution to all of this, folks, is earn more money. If you earn more money, then you can basically be above all these issues. So do you think Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are complaining about the price of eggs? They don't care. They still eat eggs. They buy eggs. It doesn't affect them as much. You want to be in a situation where these things do not affect you as much. Michelle says, should we have to learn a second language to have priority with the job? Depends on the job, Michelle. And also depends on where you're working. If you're working in South Dakota, you don't need to learn a second language. Everybody there speaks English. Now, if you're working in Miami, where I live, then a second language will help you a lot because a lot of people here speak Spanish. So it depends on where you're at. And it depends on the job as well. Do you actually have to talk to people at your job? I see people working in jobs, they don't really have to talk. They're like mopping the floors. It doesn't matter if you speak Spanish. Not really. Davison said, liberals ran this country into the dirt. LOL. Well, see, people on the other side say the same thing about conservatives. Little seeds of wisdom. The topic here today, we were fact checking the things said about Donald Trump in his first 2 weeks of his administration. Right now, I'm just reading comments and responding to questions. So, but you can see the whole replay will be on YouTube. So over on YouTube, O-Dog says, abolish minimum wage so people can negotiate. That'd be interesting, O-Dog. I think what's going to happen is you're going to get a lot of people working for free. That's what's going to happen in order just to get their foot in the door. That's what's going to happen. They would get their foot in the door and work for free. And then after they prove themselves, then they would get a job. That would actually be good for business owners. I think a lot of people will be really, really mad about that. There'll be a ton of blowback on that. So, and actually, I don't know if that would ever get through Congress, but it's an interesting idea. I think it actually could if Donald Trump tried right now. He got 2 years before the midterm elections. They might be able to get that through, but I don't know if it's going to happen. Bill said, I don't know how I ended up discovering your channel, but I'm damn happy I did. Bill, me too. Congratulations. I'm glad you're here. Matt Villainy said the algorithm. Yeah, shout out to the YouTube algorithm, which may be working for me a little bit. If it was really working for me, I'd have a lot more people on this live. But YouTube algorithm, start sending more people to my material. Gulf of America, yeah. A lot of people try to feign anger over that. Who cares what the hell that water is called? The Gulf of whatever. Michelle said, Morals' children are trafficked because of our immigration policies. Yeah, probably. Yes, you're right. Nelson Mandela decant chapters. That is correct. But it depends. It depends on how people are looking at you. Michael says a delicate balance, stop federal aid, and seeing our country begin taking stronger position. Yes, that's possible. Even Rome collapsed. Yes, you're 100% right about that. Who is that? Michael, you're 100% right about that. America is not guaranteed to stay in power. I am on board with that point. Very true. Lisa said, can't wait to see the midterms messaging from both parties. It starts next year. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Democrats are going to come with a heavy punch. This is how it works in politics with this two-party system. One side gets some power, and then the other side comes back, and they get more energized, and they got to regroup because they lost. And it's just this back and forth. That's all it is. It's always going to be back and forth. It'll be this side for a while, then that side, and it's just back and forth going on. What I suggest to all of you citizens, those of you who don't work in politics, is to set yourself up so that you can be above this fray. I'm talking about it because it draws attention, but I don't really give a damn who's in power. And you want to be in a position where you don't give a damn either. Life Coach says, I'm an entrepreneur, small business owner. All right, great. Decant said, business about relationships, why so many deals are made on the golf course. Yes. And why customers stay customers because of the relationship, not because of the price. Jeanette said, who's running the country, as you all know, was not Joe Biden. Probably a bunch of people whose names we don't know. Not Jill's, but a bunch of people we don't know. Also known as the deep state, what everybody calls the deep state. The deep state is a bunch of people you never heard of and you never will hear of. And they work to keep it that way. They don't want you to know who they are. So when Donald Trump says drain the swamp, he's talking about them. Good old Seeds of Wisdom said, what's the financial secret you think most people miss? I don't know if there are any secrets. I would say what I've said 3 times already here is position yourself so that you can be above the fray of how much eggs cost. That's not really a secret. It's a way of thinking. It's a mindset. That's what I would call it. Jeanette said, I agree with Bill. All right, good stuff. Sandy Choate 4 said, first time here. Hope you're enjoying it. And by the way, those of you watching right now on TikTok, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Those of you watching on any platform, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube and you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I put the replays of all these live streams on YouTube. It actually will be on YouTube immediately because I'm actually looking at 3 different cameras right now. So I got YouTube, LinkedIn, Rumble, X, and Facebook over here. I got Instagram over here and TikTok over here. So everything I'm saying here is going to all the platforms at the same time. I'm just looking at TikTok because I'm reading the comments. But I do these lives Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. If you want to see the replay of anything that I've done or anything I tell you I already did, it is on YouTube. All the archive is on YouTube of everything I've ever done. A-Town said, what do black people need to do to rise above the policies and politics? The same thing a white person needs to do, A-Town. Make more money. If you earn more money, then none of this stuff actually matters. The only reason I'm talking about it because I like talking about it and breaking it down, not because I'm distraught over the cost of eggs. Again, none of you want to be distraught over the cost of eggs. How much are eggs right now, by the way? Like $12? Whatever eggs cost. All right. You should not be distraught over something that costs $12. Period. And if you are, then the adjustment you need to make is not the cost of the eggs. It's how are you bringing in your money and what can you do to bring in more so that the cost of eggs does not affect you. That's what you want. Eero says, what was that you said? Rich people don't want you to know. I don't know if I said that. I said rich people don't want you to know. I don't think I said anything along those lines. Tasha Bennett said, can I do an intro about myself? Sure. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete. My sport was basketball. I stopped playing basketball in 2015. So it's been 10 years since I got out of the game. I have this company called Work on Your Game. What we do here is we take the tools to help athletes reach the top of the sports world. We translate those tools over to the business and professional world to help high-level performers perform at their highest level, do so consistently, and produce higher-level results, all with a 4-part framework we have over here based on mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. You can find out more about that by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com or DreUniversity.com. Somebody in my comments on TikTok last week said Dre University. I said we should go get that domain name. I went and got it the same day. Now we got DreUniversity.com. So that's what I do, Tasha. Hopefully that gives you a snapshot of who I am and where I come from. My hometown is the city of Philadelphia, PA. That's where I come from, born and raised. And I live in Miami, Florida. You can find out more about me by going to Google. Just look my name up. I got plenty of material all over. We got 50 domain names. So you go to workonyourgame.com as well. I don't like to give out too many domain names because then it confuses people. Let me see. I lost my place here. I'm going to take a couple more comments, then we can wrap this all up. Let me see. Where was I? Oh, yeah, got it. D. Kent said, one more thing on the felons. All of our founding fathers were considered felons. Yeah, exactly. They were all felons according to the Crown of England. Right. So they all would have got their heads chopped off. They'd have lost that war. Salim said, have you seen the movie 2073? I don't watch movies. I never even heard of that movie. So no, I'm not a movie watcher. D. Kent said, Costco has eggs for $6, 18 of the organic. Okay, yeah. All right. Eggs are not that expensive, Queen. Yeah, well, expensive is relative, Queen. That's the whole point. Expensive is relative, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want anything that is sold in a grocery store to be, quote unquote, expensive to you. That's the point. You want to put yourself in a position where you go to the grocery store, you get all the stuff you want, you just put it in the cart, and you're not even looking at the prices. I remember when I was a kid, give you an example. My mom, I come from a lower middle class background, a 2-parent household. And my mom did most of the grocery shopping. And when we went grocery shopping with my mom, she would have the cart, and then she would have an envelope and an ink pen with her. And every single thing she put in the cart, she would write down the price of it. And she would just keep adding up the prices while we walked through the store. And she would even calculate how much the tax was going to be because we knew how much tax was. And she would calculate it because she needed to know that she had enough money to pay for all the groceries. And I appreciate my parents. They did a great job. At the same time, you don't want to be in that situation. You don't want to be looking at the price of everything on the shelf and making sure like, damn, I can't get this because I ain't gonna have enough money. You don't want to be there. And I'm not telling you that, just telling you it and leaving you there to figure it out. I have a business where I help people with this. I help people start businesses, expand their businesses, and run their businesses. Again, mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability for high-level performance. I help people do this. I work with sales teams. I do sales trainings. I do speaking, TED Talks, coaching, consulting, etc. So I'm not just telling you that and then leaving you to figure it out. I actually help people do this. But that's the position you want to be in. That's the vision. That's the aim. If you're not there already, that's where you want to be. A-Town, but I generally just answered that question about business. So I have my own business, and then I work with a whole bunch of other businesses. I do strategic partnerships, or what some of you may call joint ventures, with a lot of other companies. It's one of the fastest ways to move yourself forward is to work with other people who are established in ways that you are not, or they have audiences that you don't have. That's a good way of introducing yourself to other potential customers instead of having to just come in cold. Many of you never heard of me before until you heard me on this live. But if I go to somebody else who has an audience already, and then they introduce me as like their friend, or this person's good, now some of their customers will also become my customers. But I'm not taking their customers. They just become customers of both of us. So I do a lot of joint ventures like that. I'm talking to somebody right now who's a very well-known author, and we're talking about doing a book project together, but I can't tell you about it yet because nothing's on paper yet. But this, I will say, is a man, and I will say they sell a good number of books, and they have strong publisher relationships. So that's another joint venture. I've never done something like that before, but that's something I'm looking at doing this year. And then I do other things, speaking gigs, speaking in other people's masterminds. I'll be a guest speaker, of course, speaking at conferences and stuff, sales trainings, things like that. In addition to just doing my stuff that is under my umbrella. But the fastest way to expand for any of you who's in business is to connect with somebody else who has a business, and then y'all work together. You just got to find a person who has what you need, and then you have what they need. So it's just finding the right fit. So you shouldn't just partner with anybody just because. You got to find people who you can give them something that they don't have, and they can give you something that you don't have. So that's the strategy right there, is finding the right mix. Eero said, you mentioned that Trump was talking to a certain kind of rich people. What was that term you used? I don't remember what I said, Eero. I don't know what you're referring to. Nikki said, yeah, Dre University. I think, Nikki, it might have been you who said that. Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Nikki. So thank you, Jeffrey. I appreciate that. So Dr. J8 said, I like that Dre University. Yeah, I should have got that one before. I should have had Dre University a long time ago. So yeah, we got DreUniversity.com. Little Seeds of Wisdom said, my name is Natasha Bennett. Hey, twin. So Natasha Bennett and Little Seeds of Wisdom, y'all both got the same name. Congratulations. Look at this. We're uniting twins with the same name here in this live stream. We're changing lives over here, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you, Jeffrey. A-Town said you did. Thanks. Super excited for you. Yes. Okay. I think we got to the end of the comments. So we got through everything. Over on YouTube, O-Dog said, look up Walter Williams. Yes, I've consumed a good number of Walter Williams interviews. He talks about how minimum wage is a barrier of entry. Yes, it is a barrier of entry. That's exactly what it is. Because if they raise the minimum wage, then that means people who are not worth X amount won't get a job. It actually causes people to lose jobs. I know what you're saying, O-Dog. Matt Villainy said, if it's a job that can pay a lot, it's worth to do an apprenticeship, even starting non-paid, preferably if you're younger than 18 before starting a family. Yes, well, the couple subjective terms you use there. Worth it is a subjective term, and pay a lot is another subjective term. These are relative terms. So we don't know. It's still a gamble. But yeah, if you could do it before turning 18, that's great because you have nothing to lose. If you're living at home, you don't have bills. Pay attention to how much everyday things cost. I don't pay attention to how much everyday things cost and I'm broke. Well, how is that possible, Matt Villainy? How can you not pay attention if you don't have any money? I never heard anybody say that, but I'm asking you, how is that even possible? You could not pay attention, but you don't have any money. So what do? You get up to the register and don't have money and just leave it there and go home? What do you do? It's a funny comment. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I usually stop these lives at 10 o'clock, but I was just responding to y'all's comments. I went a little long on the content this morning. But I do these lives 8 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. If you are watching on TikTok, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@DreB. My name is Dre, D-R-E. My last name is Baldwin, the letter B. Dre, youtube.com/DreB, or just look me up, Dre Baldwin. I'm very easy to find anywhere online. All my profiles are public. I'm on every social media platform. Everything is public. So whatever platforms you like or that you use a lot, aside from the one you're watching me on, you can look me up. I'm on all of them. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, Rumble, X. I think that's all of them. Yeah, look me up. So I'm very easy to find. I do these lives Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Last thing, for those of you on TikTok, I have been suspended from TikTok 6 different times in the last 6 months because I said something that either TikTok didn't like or the people who are watching didn't like, and they flagged my live streams. So that's why I'm telling you, make sure you follow me on YouTube just in case I get kicked off TikTok again, because it can happen any day at any moment. They'll kick you off right in the middle of your live stream. If you don't see me, if I get kicked off or anything like that, I'm still on YouTube. My live streams will always be on YouTube consistently. That's where you can find me, everybody. And what I usually do in these lives, I do about an hour worth of content, and then I respond to questions in the second hour or half hour. It depends on how many questions I got. Today, I just went a little bit longer on the content. That's why we're still here at 10:17. I appreciate you, A-Town. Appreciate you, Lisa. Appreciate that, Lisa. You went and subscribed. Shout out to all the people who sent gifts and badges over here on TikTok as well. I will see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. I will tell you, next week I'm going to be traveling starting on Tuesday. So I will be live every day this week. I will be live Monday next week. Next week I'm be in Vegas for a marketing conference. Interviews in Vegas. Send me a DM, let me know. And I will be in Vegas Tuesday through all next week. Tuesday through the rest of next week. Then I'll be back the Monday after that. We will see you all tomorrow, though. Tomorrow I'll be here normal. Work on your game. Have a great Monday. We out.